Covered in blood, Kang Hyun-jong couldn't understand how everyone had died in the battle except for him, a lowly. Using his shield, he pushed himself up on one knee, trying to regain his composure. He couldn't see a way out. The entrance to the dungeon had suddenly closed. Dozens of skeletons surrounded him. They were high-ranked monsters, and he didn't understand what they were doing there at all. But he didn't want to die senselessly in this dungeon. His eyes filled with determination, and his hand went to the sword that lay at his feet. If only he had that incredible power, he would stand a chance. But he had to survive. A voice distracted him from his goal. He congratulated Kang Hyun-jong. Seeing his drive for life, his past life went beyond the limits and intervened on its own. It was Sidon Miller, the last patron of the sword. The boy recognized the voice. A bright glow blinded the youth, and, as if out of nowhere, a blonde-haired man appeared in the air. Sidon Miller condescended to see him. The boy's eyes widened and glittered. It was all happening, just like in his dream. Now, one of his past lives was inside his body. His face radiated confidence. He raised his sword and was ready to take on this fight. Someone was desperately trying to wake Kang Hyun-jong up. Opening his eyes slightly, wincing in the light, he realized that they were members of his team, a man and a girl. With a sigh, he abruptly collapsed. He listened to the two of them discuss in dissatisfaction that the guy had just run away while they were defending the dungeon and then fallen asleep. One of them turned to him. He didn't want to say it, but they didn't have much money to give to small creatures like Kang Hyun-jong. He viciously advised the young man, if he was already awake, to scram as soon as possible and no longer look for another team. The guy didn't understand what he meant by saying that they didn't have much money. The man understood. The young man is not franked, half-retarded. Doesn't he remember being injured in the dungeon, then drinking all their potions and leaving bleeding profusely? Just drop them to restore health. Then a rock hit him, and with a curse, he fell and lost consciousness. Because of him, they spent a lot more time. Anyway, does he realize how much the potions he drank were worth? The man was looking at Kang Hyun-jong reproachfully as he said all this, and the girl next to him also didn't miss the opportunity to express all her reproaches with her eyes. After all, if the young man had even a drop of conscience, he would understand why the team did not leave him anything. What was he doing while they were clearing the dungeon? The guy was tired of listening to all this. He got to his feet and pointed at them. This was because they told him to provoke all the monsters. He doesn't claim that he did everything right, but it's against the law not to pay him. The man raised his eyebrows. Was it illegal? Did this guy lose all the remnants of his brain after that punch? He remembered that Kang Hyun-jong had promised before joining their team that he could do anything, even though half-ranked player. He begged them to take him and let him show them what he could do. The man looked down at him angrily, recalling those words and the fact that he himself had expressed a desire to be a bait and provoke the monsters, and in the end, he hadn't even been able to complete that task. And after they saved him from death, he decided to express his gratitude to them in these words. He rudely added that if this retarded person is still not satisfied with something, then let him go and report it to the association, but not the fact that the association will believe him and not them. They turned and walked away. The girl could be heard telling the man that this was the reason why she didn't want him. The man listened to his chatter for half an hour. Even her brother hadn't prepared such a long speech for his interview with the association. The guy heard this and clenched his fists furiously. A world where raids, dungeons, and monsters have appeared. People who have awakened abilities have become hunters clearing dungeons. Based on the level of their abilities and achievements, they were assigned ranks. Kang Hyun-jong is in a world where he decided everything, treating low-ranked hunters like trash was unavoidable. But the guy is used to it because even someone like him has his own ray of light. Something was easy to endure because the most beloved person, Hyojin, his girlfriend, was right next to him. They were sitting in a cafe, and the young man was looking at Hyojin in love. He told her that he was very happy to see her because it had been a long time. She was so busy that they didn't even have time to go on dates. The girl, looking at the phone, replied that it was better than being unemployed. The problem was that only she was busy. Kang Hyun-jong apologized. His rank is still too low, but soon. She interrupted him by slamming her phone down on the table. The girl asked if he remembered that this day was exactly the year of their relationship. The guy said he remembered. He prepared something and reached into his pocket to pull it out. But Hyojin interrupted him again. She had a meeting scheduled with another person, so she decided to get straight to the point. She asked him to break up. Rising from her chair, the girl said that she had to go. The guy grabbed her arm and tried to stop her, but it didn't work out. The girl reminded him that a year ago, they both had an F rank, but now she has a C, which is much higher than his rank. She advised him to stop playing the hunter when he was completely incompetent. Hyojin stated that he needed to know his place. He was too pathetic, she couldn't stay with him any longer. After saying goodbye, she left. Kang Hyun-jong's world collapsed. Thoughts of self-reproach settled in his mind. He thought that if he worked hard, he would eventually see the fruits of his labor. And in the end, everyone sees in him only a failure who is not capable of anything. Through the window, he saw a car pull up behind her, and she opened the door and got into the passenger seat. In front of him was a phone with open correspondence with Seok-gu. A friend had asked him out for a drink an hour earlier, but he had declined, writing that he was meeting Hyojin today. Kang Hyun-jong sat on a bench in the park, letting his sadness take over. Seok-gu called out to him. He asked why the guy wasn't at a meeting with his girlfriend. The young man replied that he had a lot on his plate today, and he just wanted to see a familiar face. He couldn't get the looks of people looking at him out of his mind. Seok-gu began to tell him that he should have worked harder, because only those who work hard are good. Of course, he knew that his friend had just been abandoned, but sitting on the banks of the Han River and pouring soju into himself was not an option. Kang Hyun-jun asked if Seok-gu knew what it meant to be so poor that you couldn't even buy a snack. Seok-gu agreed to buy him something at the convenience store. Before going there, he advised the guy not to go into the cold river. And he wasn't going to. He didn't even have the energy to do that. Finally, Seok-gu jokingly told the boy that he should cry because he probably felt worthless compared to a full-time employee in the Hunters Association like himself. He knew it was a joke, but there was some truth in it. He always thought that everyone has at least one talent, and he just hasn't found his own yet, but it's only a matter of time. Even if he didn't have the talent, he was trying to achieve something with his efforts and hard work. Memories flew through his head. The words of his former teammates, the breakup with a girl. Maybe he should just give up. A passerby interrupted his train of thought. He immediately realized that Kang Hyun-jong was in. But even so, he saw great potential in it. The man felt the past lives of incredible people inside him. And it wasn't just past lives. Each of them had the status of the strongest. The boy didn't understand what the man was saying. He told the young man that if he was hungry for power, he wouldn't have any problems, because even now he could see them around. Kang Hyun-jong wondered, since when did these fanatics become so obsessed? The man added that even if the guy does not believe him, he will soon understand everything himself. Without giving any more information, he left. While the young man stared after him in shock, Seok-gu sat down on the bench with a bag in his hands, scaring the boy to distraction. He asked who the man was. Kang Hyun-jun replied that he didn't know either. He asked a friend the same question. Does he believe in past lives? A voice informed him that he had learned of the existence of past lives. His 990,000 past lives have begun to watch him. 478th past life, Kasago, Shield of Justice, and other lives are watching him. He asked if Seok-gu had heard that voice. He just laughed it off. He didn't hear anything. The guy changed the subject, asking if his friend had found out about the squads that needed porters. Seok-gu was surprised, so this was a serious request. But why would he do such a hard job? The young man had to pay his rent, and the shelter was also having a hard time. Seok-gu reported that there was a C-rank squad looking for shelter, but the people in it weren't particularly friendly, so Kang Hyun-jong had to be careful. But all the guy cared about was getting paid. He sincerely thanked his friend. Seok-gu was taking an intoxicated friend home, and he didn't want to come in, offering to have another drink. Seok-gu reminded him that the guy was going to work as a porter tomorrow, and anyway, he had already spent a lot of his time on him. After asking him to be in touch tomorrow to let him know the opening hours, he left. Kang Hyun-jong was immensely grateful to him. He might only have one friend, but he was the best. Tomorrow, he was determined to go all out and do 100 times better than anyone else, even if they would call him. When he opened the door to go home, he found himself in some kind of space. Even though he was drunk, he knew this place wasn't his home. He was greeted by a man in armor and a red cloak who called himself Kasago, the shield of justice that protects the northern part of the kingdom. This was his past life. Kang Hyun-jun was stunned. What does his past life mean? He remembered a passerby in the park who had told him how he felt in all his past lives. So it turns out that everything he said was not the ravings of a madman. And Kasago is the last one with the strongest status. Kasago pointed his spear at the boy and told him that even if the young man's body was torn to pieces by the spear 1,000 times, he would still put his will into it. Kang Hyun-jong tried to say something intelligible. In the face of fear, his entire body was petrified, and he didn't know what to do in this situation. Kasago didn't like that. Even when he was one step away from death, the guy was trying to get away with it. The man in armor threatened the young man that if he intended to mix their honor with mud, then he would wash his ears in his blood. After saying the end of that sentence, Kasago abruptly threw his spear at Kang Hyun-jong. The guy didn't have time to react, and the weapon sank right in the center, between his ribs. Coughing, he sank to his knees, pain like flames engulfing his entire body. Kasago called him pathetic because he makes such a face with just one punch. He had no idea why his past life was doing this. Kasago said that such pain is like an old friend to this body. Kang Hyun-jong started to panic. He was bleeding profusely. He had to get out of here right away, otherwise he would really die. The man came up to him and took the spear out of his chest, saying that the guy was again tormented by unnecessary thoughts. He shouldn't have been afraid of death. The youth felt a searing pain as the sharp blade of the spear left his body. However, there was no wound on this spot. He was unharmed. Kasuga explained to him that he could not die here without his permission, even if he wished to. He raised his eyebrows and thought that if that was the case, he might be tortured here forever. The thought scared the hell out of him. He looked at the door he had entered. It didn't go anywhere. It was still in the same place. All he has to do is run to her. Kasuga's voice was filled with disgust as he said that the boy was running away again, and he didn't have the courage to face death because he didn't have the strength to defend himself. And since he has lost his love and honor, let him go. Someone like him can't be a vessel for Kasuga. He won't be able to hide his pity. The guy was indignant. What does this man know about him? He may not have the talents or skills, but he has the hope that after suffering so much, one day everything can change. Memories of playing carelessly with the kids in the yard filled him with warmth. The young man added that for those who have no power, suffering is just suffering. No matter how bad he feels, he won't be able to back down. And don't let Kasuga throw out words if he doesn't know what it's like to be powerless. The man doesn't know anything about him at all to say something like that. After saying all this, he clenched his fists angrily. Kasuga was glad to finally see the fire in this guy's eyes. He was his past life, and he had to pass on his will so that no one could take anything away from him again, and so that he, Kang Hyun-jung, could climb to the top. He heard that voice again, telling him that Sidon Miller, Hope, Romana, Serena, and his other past lives were sending their congratulations to him. And Kasuga, the Shield of Justice, sends its congratulations to him. They will all help him. The man said that without trials and tribulations, the young man will not achieve results. If he wants to gain the power to face his fate, he needs to raise his shield and fight Kasuga. Kang Hyun-jung thought about it. He didn't trust his past life to the end. He wasn't even sure if Kasuga was his past life. But if he really can get stronger, the guy took the shield. According to Kasuga, no matter how much the young man trusted him, he had to remember that he was their reincarnation. The man explained the rules to him. The guy could only use any move once to nullify his attack. Kang Hyun-jung fixed this rule in his head just once. He believed that he would succeed. The first attack allowed Kasuga to knock the shield out of the guy's hands. Immediately, a spear pierced through his chest. The piercing pain returned to his body. The youth couldn't even see his spear. Kasuga looked down at him and ordered him to stand up and fight, not allowing his mind to be clouded by just 2 attacks. He urged him not to lose his fighting spirit. It seemed that the guy was already losing his mind from how long he was already hanging on the thread of death. The spear had already stabbed him 100 times, and he still couldn't fend off the attacks. Kasuga was disappointed. After 2,500 piercings, Kang Hyun-jung still couldn't use the shield properly. It seems that for such a weakling, one more time will be superfluous. Kasuga intended to kill the young man. The young man got to his feet, and the words had an effect on him. His eyes lit up again, and he no longer felt alarmed. When he first defended himself, he felt fear. He still wasn't used to the disgusting feeling of being pierced by a spear. But what he was used to after countless encounters with death was the possibility of dying. Kasuga raised the weapon above his head to throw it, and Kang Hyun-jung ducked to block the attack with his shield. He did it. Kasuga said that his work was finished. The guy did a good job. His past life in this battle used the basic 24 spear techniques and the ability to understand the enemy's attacks. And when necessary, Kang Hyun-jung's body will remember them. He also told him that when the young man awoke from this dream, many things would change. A pleasant melody sounded in the guy's dream. He woke up and realized it was his phone ringing. As he fumbled to pick up the phone, he heard Seok-poo's voice. A friend inquired about the condition of Kang Hyun-jung, who was pretty drunk yesterday, and informed him that the schedule had appeared. He doubted that the guy would be all right, and he would be able to handle it, since this was a C-rank dungeon. But in any case, the young man needed money. Despite his hangover, he was ready to go there right now. Seok-poo sent him the address and information to read before going there. The guy thanked his friend and promised not to be late. As he hung up the phone, he remembered his strange dream of being speared by his past life, Kasuga, without interruption. There were no wounds on him now, but he seemed to still feel them. It was all so real that the tongue wouldn't dare call it a dream. What was that all about? Kang Hyun-jung quickly packed up and dressed. It was a good thing that the dungeon was only a 10-minute walk away from his house. Near the exit, he noticed a shield. Was this the same shield that he got when he registered as a hunter? Has it always been there? He hadn't seen it in a long time. He recalled his dream once again, where he needed a shield to protect himself from Kasuga's attacks. Anyway, he decided to take it with him. When he reached the C-rank dungeon, he found that he had arrived first. Following behind him was a girl who turned out to be Hyojin. She asked him why he had come here. Was he stalking her? The young man hadn't expected to see her. A guy came up to her and asked if everything was all right and if the girl knew Kang Hyun-jung. Hyojin took his arm and told him not to pay any attention to this Stan Chol guy because Kang Hyun-jung just annoys her no more. Sang-chul approached the youth and rudely asked him why he had taken the shield and how he was going to carry the mana crystals if he was carrying such a heavy shield. Kang Hyun-jong was angry, anger choking him. He heard the voice again, which informed him that Hasashin, the Shadow Master, had seen the evil in him and was sending congratulations. An impenetrable darkness grew inside him. But aloud, the young man only apologized, saying that this was the first time he would be a porter. As more people gathered, they came to the entrance of the dungeon. Sang-chul prepared to go first. As soon as he opened the doors, Kang Hyun-jong sensed something was amiss. Just like in a dream, when he was about to be stabbed, the feeling was weaker, but he clearly felt the urge to kill. The weapon's blade swung toward him. Shouts and the rumbling of dungeon stones could be heard from everywhere. The same voice informed Kang Hyun-jong that Kasago, the shield of justice, was protecting him. As long as Kasago protects him, nothing can harm him. Remembering Kasago's appearance, the boy parried the attack with his shield, the skeletal bones now lying around him. The rest of the team didn't see what happened because of the columns of dust from the falling dungeon stones. Sang-chul asked if anyone was injured, if everything was all right. Hyojin replied that the porter was injured. Another girl confirmed that there was a direct hit and he is most likely dead. The dungeon monsters suddenly started attacking. Sang-chul gave the order to get into the first formation because this, apparently, will not be the last attack. Kang Hyun-jong didn't even know why they were attacked as soon as they entered. Another attack by the skeleton knights followed. One girl shouted, not understanding why no one was acting. Holding the wand in one hand, she released a stream of flame from the other directly at the skeleton's head and ordered the team to quickly attack everything that came to hand. Sang-chul charged into the battle. The 4 survivors, Kang Hyun-jun, Hyojin, Sang-chul, and the wand girl were sitting at the entrance of the dungeon. Sang-chul wondered why the skeleton knights were in this dungeon. They should be in B-rank dungeons. Part of their team was dead. A girl answered him. She thought that the dungeon administration had made a mistake. This kind of thing happens sometimes. Sang-chul guessed that this dungeon was an elite one, and its rank was higher than C. The porter was able to dodge the attack somehow, but with their strength, they wouldn't get any further. The girl suggested that they listen to Sang-chul, give up, and go back. They might be punished for it, but it was better than dying. Kang Hyun-jun thought about it. It was true that he had been saved by a mysterious voice, but there was no guarantee that it would happen again. He reached for the door to open it and get out. Suddenly, his face darkened. The door was locked. The team panicked. Sang-chul admitted that they didn't have a choice. If it was a dungeon with a lockable door, all they had to do was clean it out and complete the task. The thought was killing him. Hyojin walked up to him and put her arm through his and said in a frightened voice that she was scared. Sang-chul reassured her and promised to protect her. Kang Hyun-jong watched them from the side. Did she have a new boyfriend so quickly? Sang-chul gave the order for everyone to be close by and be ready to clean out this dungeon. After some mana crystals were collected, Sang-chul suggested that everyone rest. But the girl with the wand was alert. She asked everyone to be quiet, as if they'd heard something. A hole appeared in the ceiling of the dungeon. A monster suddenly attacked from it. She couldn't see where he was, and a skeleton with a helmet on its head attacked her. The blade of his sword had killed her. Sang-chul was furious. He didn't want to lose the team members again. Hyojin froze, covering her mouth with her hand to hide her horror. Kang Hyun-jun thought about it. Was it a skeleton sergeant? Hyojin screamed out loud, which scared Sang-chul a lot. She began to wail that they were doomed and everyone here would die a senseless death, tears streaming down her cheeks. Meanwhile, the helmeted skeleton prepared to advance on Kang Hyun-jong. It was dangerous, but he realized that he could defend himself. The monster's movements were simple, and he could calculate them. Each time, the skeleton's sword touched the young man's shield without touching him. Kasago's training was making itself felt. The main thing is not to forget to fight back and aim directly at the bullseye. At some point, due to the large number of failed attacks, the monster weakened. It was the perfect time to strike at him, and Kang Hyun-jong seized the opportunity. The skeleton crumbled into a handful of bones. Another skeleton knight attacked Sang-chul from hiding, and this was the last attack for the boy. Hyojin was left unprotected, but suddenly she noticed Hyun-jong. He was still alive. The young man resolutely rushed into the battle. He sincerely hoped that he would be able to do it. After defeating a few more monsters, he couldn't believe it was all over and he was able to. Hyojin was surprised to see and when did he learn all this? The guy asked how the other guys were doing. The girl sadly reported that everyone had died and they were the only survivors of the massacre. She moved closer to him and asked the questions that had been bothering her so much. How did an F-ranked monster defeat a C-ranked monster? What did he do and what is going on? The guy advised her to just be happy that she was still alive instead of thinking about him. Hyojin reached out to him. She admitted that she was sorry that she was harsh with him on the day of the breakup. She asked him to confirm that he would not leave her because they love each other. Her eyes filled with hope, and she added that together they could do it, and he could do it. The guy narrowed his eyes, and he said he wouldn't leave her. But in his heart, he was tormented by the thought that even in this situation, she could only think of herself. They headed for a door that might have been the end of the dungeon. They were afraid to open it, but there was no other choice. She was thinking that she needed this brat's shield to protect herself. She decided to use the young man as bait to get out of here alive herself. The bridge was waiting for them outside the door. Hyojin offered to go to the guy first. Ostensibly, she would look after him from behind, in case someone might attack from there. But in reality, she was afraid that someone might jump out of the water, so it would be good if he went and checked. Hyunjun carefully took the first step, then another and another, so he got to the end, telling the girl that everything was fine and she could go. Hyojin calmed down a little. There was no reason to worry. The young man had checked everything out. Until they got out of here, she would just stick with him. He was the kind of guy who would do anything for her if she flattered him a little. She would think about the rest later, once she got out of the dungeon alive. The girl moved forward across the bridge. Eerie eyes with yellow pupils watched her from the water. Hyojin walked confidently across the bridge. It was a piece of cake after Kang Hyunjong walked through it. She considered her plan further as soon as it passes through the bridge. A splash of water broke her train of thought. From below, the huge open jaw of some creature was rushing at her, its fangs arranged in 2 rows both above and below, and did not bode well. A giant shark grabbed the girl right by the throat. Hyojin called out and asked Hyunjong for help. The guy rushed to her aid, but did not have time. The queen of the seas had already dragged the girl into the water. Abruptly, the young man stopped as if spellbound. He looked at the shark's tail floundering in the water, mixed with blood, and only said how sorry he was. However, his gaze didn't show any sympathy at all. Kang Hyunjong, talking to himself, said that he would never get out of here alive if he was so sensitive. It seems that his past lives have taken over him so that he can get out of here because they promised to help him. And it was Kasashin, the Shadow Master, who was speaking in it now. Kasago and Seiden Miller, they both believe that being mentally stable is the only way. Without finishing the sentence, the guy went to the exit and opened the doors. With a determined step, he continued on his way. Hasashin clicked in it. Hyunjong was still too innocent. There will be some difficulties with this, but it was wonderful. Spoiling the young man will be a lot of fun for Hasashin, and now he has to leave. Kang Hyunjong regained consciousness. He looked around, not sure where he was or how he'd gotten there. And where did Hyojin go? He went back to the back door to find the girl, but it was locked. The guy knocked and pounded, but it didn't work out. A noise from behind caught his attention. Turning around, he saw skeletons with tools. Heck, gripping his sword tightly in one hand and his shield in the other, he prepared for battle. Blades rang as he fought against the monsters, remembering everything he knew now. But he couldn't withstand one attack. The skeleton knight overpowered him, and the young man collapsed to the ground. Covered in blood, Kang Hyunjong couldn't understand how everyone had died in the battle except for him, Aloli. Using his shield, he pushed himself up on one knee, trying to regain his composure. He couldn't see a way out. The entrance to the dungeon had suddenly closed. Dozens of skeletons surrounded him. They were high-ranked monsters, and he didn't understand what they were doing there at all. But he didn't want to die senselessly in this dungeon. His eyes filled with determination, and his hand went to the sword that lay at his feet. If only he had that incredible power, he would stand a chance. But he had to survive. A voice distracted him from his goal. He congratulated Kang Hyunjong. Seeing his drive for life, his past life went beyond the limits and intervened on its own. It was Seiden Miller, the last patron of the sword. The boy recognized the voice. A bright glow blinded the youth, and, as if out of nowhere, a blonde-haired man appeared in the air. Seiden Miller condescended to see him. The boy's eyes widened and glittered. It was all happening just like in his dream. Now, one of his past lives was inside his body. His face radiated confidence. He raised his sword and was ready to take on this fight. The skeletons charged. The boy's eyes were filled with a radiant blue light, and his face expressed readiness and fearlessness. The blades of the swords met, and Kang Hyunjun was indignant. How dare a pitiful undead point a sword at his body? This audacity infuriated him. With a single swing of his sword, he put down all the monsters. Some rustling sounds appeared in his head. He didn't understand what they meant. His body shook, and Seiden Miller, leaving him, said goodbye to him as if to his brainchild and promised that they would meet again. The boy's body fell to the floor, his sword and shield clattering as they landed together. At the round table, several of Kang Hyunjong's past lives were held in consultation. Kasago was indignant, slamming his fist on the table, asking why the others had gone first, since it was his turn. Seiden Miller replied nonchalantly that it was a critical situation, and Kasago should be aware of it himself. Kasashin asked to be forgiven for his rudeness. He just couldn't stand by and watch. But Kasago couldn't calm down. He was the only one the guy needed right now. Kang Hyunjong needs to train, otherwise he will never be able to grow up if they, his past lives, help him forever. A bright girl dressed all in pink and glitter tuned her microphone and asked the other lives for permission to go to the young man too. She wanted their reincarnation to hear her singing. After all, Kang Hyun-jong might not have a chance at all. She suggested we just give up and sing. Her sweet and melodious voice rang out in the song. Ignoring singer hope, Kasashin suggested that Kasago should go, otherwise the number of their past lives will increase to 1,000,000. He believed that this reincarnation should be given a chance. Hope tried to draw attention to herself again. Sidon Miller said that the young man's fighting spirit was quite strong, especially for a child, but he did not agree with Kasago's opinion about him. The singer quietly got up from the table and slipped unnoticed to the exit. These idiots might talk forever, but she didn't care. She, the gorgeous Hope, would solve everything peacefully with the power of music. Before she could get out, Kasago grabbed her roughly by the shoulder and shoved her aside. The girl landed painfully on the cold floor. Kasago didn't care. This time, it was his turn to go to reincarnation. He opened the doors, and his red cloak disappeared. The doors slammed shut. Opening his eyes and standing up, Kang Hyun-jong realized that this was the place where he first met Kasago. Kasago greeted his reincarnation as he slowly descended towards him from above. The guy desperately asked what was so strange happening to him. They were facing each other, Hyun-jong, Tvedo standing on the ground, and Kasago hovering slightly above it. The guy's past life was not happy. The young man asks the wrong questions. Wouldn't it be better to ask what he should do instead? The guy seemed to be losing patience, but in response, he only dutifully asked permission to ask the question again, and this time the correct one. He asked what he was supposed to do. Kasago replied that he needed to become stronger than anyone else in the world. The young man rebelled. How can he become the most powerful when he's only Frank? He actually got a little stronger after their training, but Kasago didn't let him finish his thought, but slammed his spear down on the ground and ordered him to look more closely. Swinging the weapon, it sliced through the air, a stream of energy and light sweeping across Kang Hyun-jong. A huge crack appeared in the sky. The boy's eyes widened. Did Kasago really cut through the sky? His past life spoke to him again and told him that the young man would be able to stand on top of the world. A mana crystal slowly began to descend from the crack in the sky. Kasago explained that this is the core of the Nostrov. People in Hyun-jong's world use it as fuel. However, you can do more than just that with it. He pointed his palm at the crystal, and a monster began to appear in that place. The crystal became the heart of this huge troll with a club in his hands. The guy was horrified. Kasago told him to raise his shield. Their second training session began, and now it's time for the young man to try to survive in the battle with the troll. The monster started its attack. Cursing, Kang Hyun-jong covered himself with his shield. Kasago informed him that he was in a bad position. Doesn't the guy realize that he's one step behind? The troll approached the young man, raised the club high above his head, and hit Hyun-jong with all its might. The guy managed to repel the attack with a shield, but the force of the blow knocked him to the floor. The troll continued to strike, and Kasago began to count, 5 times, 20 times, 50 times. In this scenario, the young man would have died 80 times already. The exhausted guy got down on one knee and thought about it. To attack with a shield requires a huge swing. It will be difficult for him to even injure a troll. It was a hopeless situation for Kang Hyun-jong. This creature is much stronger than him, and it changes the trajectories of its attacks very quickly. If the young man can't kill the troll with a single blow, then he's dead. The troll threw another punch, but missed, and before it could change its position, the guy decided to act, even if it would be weaker than Kasago's defense. He leaped up high and swung his shield, which began to emit a blinding light. Hyun-jong's face was etched with an expression of perseverance and will of the spirit. The shield slammed loudly against the troll's body, and the light pierced right through it. The guy dropped to the ground, and next to him was a troll without a head and half a torso. He did it. He did it. Kasago came up to him and praised him. He was really impressed by it. The young man, barely able to stand on his feet, still decided to find out why Kasago, his past life, was helping him. After finishing his question, the guy collapsed on the ground exhausted. Kasago, looking down on him, replied that Kang Hyun-jong would understand in time. The guy woke up in the dungeon. He couldn't remember. Had he passed out here? He touched his chest and torso. Even after all those beatings from the troll, his body was still intact. Next to it was the mana crystal of one of the skeletons. For it, a young man will be able to get a fairly large amount of money. He was already confused as to what was going on, but that was something to think about later. At the moment, he needed to get out of the dungeon alive first. He came across a door that looked like the entrance to the boss room. He went inside. It was surprisingly clean. A red carpet in the center led to an archway where bright orange eyes lit up. Then, a huge skeleton in armor with a sword and bat the size of Kang Hyun-jong himself came out with a bang. The young man was perplexed. Is this a skeleton champion? Someone from above had clearly screwed up their assessment of this dungeon as a C-rank dungeon. Will he be able to defeat this monster? Kasago's voice echoed in her head, telling the reincarnation not to be afraid and never to question its powers again. The boy listened dutifully. The voice then informed Kang Hyun-jong that Kasago's defenses were activated at full power. The youth shouted and charged at the skeleton. Now he was not afraid, and he did not doubt anything. He began to think through the tactics of the battle. It was useless to fight the monster closely, so the guy had to keep a distance so that the skeleton would open up. He ran a little further away from the enemy. The boy's eyes widened in surprise as the bat flew right in front of his head. The opponent's attack radius was huge. The next swing of the bat met the shield, and Kang Hyun-jong successfully parried the blow. Then the opponent decided to use the sword. Puzzled, the young man crouched down, leaning on a pillar to regain his strength. It seemed like madness, an unequal and unfair fight. As he stood up, Hyun-jong took stock of his position. The monster towered over him unharmed, and he was barely able to stand on his feet, covered in blood. His mana was running low, and he could only take a couple more hits. Holding the shield to his body, he ran towards the skeleton. He swung his sword in a powerful swing and pointed it at the boy. The young man managed to duck under his shield, and the sword whizzed over his head. Each of the opponent's attacks was deadly, but Hyun-jong managed to dodge. Time after time, swing after swing, exhausting both himself and the opponent, the guy dodged his blows. And as soon as another attack thundered out and the sword touched the floor next to the youth, he decided that now was the time to act. Since the monster was focused on the sword, the second hand with the bat was not involved. So the young man leaped out and slashed at that arm with his shield. The bones broke, and both his hands and the bat fell to the ground. Hyun-jin couldn't believe it did work. A man in a suit was standing at the portal. He was on the phone and informed his companion that it had been 3 days since the dungeon gate opened. Given that there was no news of their sweep, he assumed that all of the squad members had died. What scared him was that if he was really right, the monsters might come out through the portal. He asked the person on the other side of the phone to prepare everything necessary for the dungeon siege. He was told that a rapid response team had been sent to him. Once they arrive, this man needs to let them go inside. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared in the dungeon's gate. The man moved the phone away from his ear to see if he was imagining it or not. He reported to the other party that someone had just cleared the dungeon. Kang Hyun-jong staggered out of the portal, leaving traces of blood on the ground. Stammering, the man asked him where the other hunters were. The guy, breathing heavily, replied that they were all dead. The man introduced himself and showed his work ID. It was Park Jun-ho from the dungeon administration. He asked the young man to show his hunter's ID. The guy thought, dungeon administration. Park Jun-ho looked at the guy's ID card and couldn't believe his eyes. Is the surviving hunter an F-rank hunter? Meanwhile, in the administration office, the manager was nonchalantly eating donuts. Park Jun-ho burst into his office, barely breathing. The manager went berserk. He had just sent a dungeon-clearing squad there, and Park Jun-ho had already returned and wouldn't let him eat. The man replied that, apparently, there was a hunter who was able to wake up for the second time. The manager got really angry and stood up, slamming his hands on the table. He doubted the veracity of this information. Park Jun-ho handed him Kang Hyun-jong's ID card and explained that he, an F-rank hunter, was the only one who had returned alive from an elite P-rank dungeon. The manager decided to clarify. The young man is barely able to stand up after returning from the B-rank dungeon, and Park Jun-ho claims that the guy has reawakened. The man replied that they needed to do some research to make sure. But the manager didn't want to listen to him, because even among the S-ranked hunters, only a few were able to awaken a second time. So let Park Jun-ho stop talking nonsense and get back to work. The man wanted to object, but the manager asked if he knew how much it cost to wake up again. Will he be able to take responsibility for his words? Instead of making a futile effort, let him do as he is told. After saying all this, the manager sat down in his chair and turned to the window, clearly indicating that the conversation was over. The man walked out furiously. If this was a reawakening, then this whole thing just didn't make sense. Rather than trust this stupid manager, he'd rather do everything himself. Kang Hyun-jong woke up and opened his eyes. The sun had already risen, blinding him with its bright and harsh light. As he tried to shield himself from the rays of the sun, he wondered if he had survived. But the last day with the dungeon and the monsters had exhausted him so much, he was tired, and he wanted to rest a little more. Hyun-jong closed his eyes again and fell into a deep sleep. The young man felt something strange. His consciousness was again transferred to the space where he saw his previous life, Kasago. The Arab-robed man bowed and greeted Kang Hyun-jong as if they had met before. This surprised the young man. He had only seen Kasago here before. He asked the guy if he was also one of his past lives. He smiled and said it didn't matter. Hyun-jun could have died. The youth seemed to be losing his temper. He knew he could have died in the dungeon, obviously. Why can't a guy just tell you who he is? His companion laughed, amused by this reincarnation. It was very funny, although this young man looked weak, but he was not lacking in courage. Now he understood why Kasago was interested in this young man. As he spoke, he applauded Hyunjong approvingly. In a more serious mood, the guy said that it seemed that he had not come here for nothing instead of Seiden Miller. It was Hasashin, the Shadow Master. He took the shortest route to meet Hyunjong. The guy didn't understand what shortest path meant. Kasashin said that the young man only needs to know that the other lifetimes also wanted to see him first. But when the young man faces the dangers to come, Hasashin will prove that he is much more useful than all of them. He suggested that they stop talking and start their lesson. A sinister smile froze on his face, his eyes lit up with a purple glow, and the shape of his body began to dissipate in the pitch darkness. Kang Hyunjong took a closer look, and Hasashin's silhouette disappeared, leaving only his purple eyes in the darkness. The Shadow Master had warned him that he would aim for the boy's heart, and if he could avoid his attack just once, the lesson would be over. The young man was taken aback. Several swords sprang out of nowhere and headed in his direction. Hasashin gloated, already very curious. How many times will Hyunjong die? Suddenly, from the left side, a sword came straight to the guy's heart, scaring him to death. But contrary to expectations, the sword didn't pierce through his body. Kasashin returned to his former self, chuckling as he announced that this was the end of their lesson. He added that the stronger Hyunjong gets, the more nefarious actions he will be caught doing, such as by the director of the Shadow Guild. Kang Hyunjong, holding a small bag, walked over to the reception desk where the girl was sitting. She greeted him politely and asked him what brought him here. He really wanted to go home, but first he had to sell the mana crystals from the dungeon. He handed her a bag from which glittering blue crystals peeked out. The guy asked her to estimate their value, as well as the price of his shield. The girl's eyes widened in surprise. She realized that the hunter had cleaned out the B-rank dungeon. Its production will be worth a little more than 20 million won. Picking up one of the crystals, she said that the evaluation fee was 1 million won. But there was no appraiser available right now, so she suggested that Hyunjong wait. The young man thought that the assessment would cost him a bit too much. The girl asked him to show her hunter's license. He handed her the card she needed. She thanked him for his cooperation and suggested that they sit down and wait a bit. They would let him know when everything was ready. The guy obediently sat down in the waiting room. Meanwhile, the girl dialed someone's phone number and reported that the same Kang Hyun-jun, a survivor who her interlocutor had told her about, had come to her. The guild's director, Jung Sungmin, nervously grabbed his phone and opened a conversation with Hyojin. Earlier, the girl had informed him that she was going to clean up the C-rank dungeon. In the reply message, the man expressed his excitement. Maybe he should have gone with her. She just laughed it off and wrote that everything was fine, she would go with friends. Jung Sungmin asked her to return safely. But this morning, he sent her a text, and it went unanswered. It was already dusk, and he was very worried because the girl still hadn't answered him. He called Hyun-suk, his subordinate, to the office and ordered him to check on the dungeon Hyojin went to. Hyun-suk bowed and replied that he would send a message to the dungeon administration. He got a call, and after talking on the phone, he sadly informed the director that all the hunters who entered that dungeon had died. Jung Sungmin was angry. What do you mean, everyone died? Hyun-suk added that he was told that there was still one survivor. The man became alert. The subordinate said that the dungeon administration is confident that one of them survived. Kang Hyun-jung fell asleep while waiting for the evaluation of his loot. He was woken up by Park Jung-ho, a man in a suit who met him at the entrance of the dungeon. The boy recognized him. Park Jung-ho came to tell the young man something very important and suggested that they move to another, quieter and more private place to talk. They discussed everything the man wanted as they sat in the park's gazebo. Park Jung-ho thanked the young man for his help. With this, they will complete the investigation. As he spoke, he pointed to a folder of papers. The man had completely forgotten about another important piece of news. He handed Hyun-jong his new C-rank hunter ID. The young man couldn't believe his eyes. The dungeon administration employee scratched his head. He thought that the guy was much stronger, but this C-rank license was all he could do for now. But that was enough for Kang Hyun-jong. He sincerely thanked the man for his concern. The guild director turned to his subordinate. He said that most of all he hates losing what belongs to him. Just in case, he asked again if Hyun-suk was sure that the administration said there was a survivor. The subordinate confirmed that he was sure of this. Jung Sungmin gave him the order to bring this sole survivor to him. With the sound of pork steaks frying in the pan, Kang Hyun-jong was having fun with his best friend over a glass of soju. Seok-ku happily congratulated the guy on getting a C-rank license. The young man was amazed. How did his friend know about this? He didn't work for the hunter department. It turned out that Hyun-jong was now quite famous in the dungeon administration. Everyone's talking about the only surviving Frank Porter in an elite C-rank dungeon. The guy froze. What's the big deal? Why did it make him so popular? Seok-ku realized that his friend didn't know that there was another case like this. In general, this happened quite rarely and only with awakened hunters. The most famous of them is Han Jinwoo. Today, when they say Ashura, people think of the country's top guild. However, it was founded by Han Jinwoo, the only survivor of the dungeon who was recognized as an awakened hunter. He was the first and only in this country to help the guild become famous. Hyunjun asked his friend if it was true that the Ashura Guild was now called the Diamond Layer. Seokku confirmed this. It was rumored that Han Jinwoo was an extremely unpleasant person, but it seems that he was well taken care of there since he didn't leave the guild. The young man was struck by this information. Seokku asked if the dungeon administration had contacted Hyunjun. After all, he should have received a special job offer. The guy didn't even know it. He didn't get anything like it. Downing a glass of soju, his friend replied that their manager didn't have any manners. Usually, someone like Hyunjun gets a message from them, and he shouldn't have let the administration treat him like this, especially now that he was a C-rank hunter. After Han Jinwoo survived, he was immediately promoted to A rank. And Kang Hyunjun has already suffered a lot. Take the fact that he's an orphan. Seokku frowned as he held out his empty glass for his friend to fill. Hyunjun suggested changing the subject. It was already dark, and Kang Hyunjun called a taxi so that the intoxicated Seokku could get home safely. The car pulled up, and the guy carefully put his friend in it. In parting, Seokku grabbed the youth's shoulder and said that everything would be fine from now on. The taxi pulled away, and when it disappeared around the bend, the guy went home. He also needed to rest. On the way home, he was enveloped in a purple haze, just like when Hyojin was dragged away by a shark. Kasashin spoke in it. According to him, the two men had been chasing Hyunjun for a long time. He shouted to them not to hide and show themselves. Two armed men came out to him, talking about how he didn't look like an ordinary guy. One of them, Hyun, was lighting a cigarette and told Kang Hyunjun to go with them. The young man was indignant. Why would he go with them? Taking out a sword from his spatial pocket, Hyun replied that if the guy didn't want to be nice, they could explain it to him in a bad way. Hyunjun seemed to have given a backup. He would go where he needed to go. Why pull out a weapon right away? Hyun liked this submissiveness, or at least he was thinking straight, which was a good thing. But the guy didn't finish. They thought that when he saw the sword, he would immediately get scared and go with them. His eyes lit up with a violet glow, and he added that these men had made a huge mistake today. Ken called his partner, Jong-ho, to help. Jang-ho jumped up with two knives behind the guy and said that it would be better if he just went with them in silence. Hyunjun dodged the knives and Jong-ho landed next to him. He was sure that he had wounded the guy, but the knife didn't get any recoil. The guy with the purple eyes could change his shape. Jong-ho admitted that Hyunjun might frank, but he clearly knew a couple of moves. Another swing of the knife, and now Jang-ho had definitely wounded him. But the young man who had been standing in front of him asked him from behind where he was looking. Hyunjun's palm lit up with a purple light. Hyun, a smoldering cigarette in his mouth, couldn't understand how Frank Hunter knew how to use aura. The guy's hand pierced right through Jang-ho. The one with a bloody wound in the chest area sank lifelessly to the ground. Hyunjun took his knife and started walking towards Hyun, the second stalker. Hyun tightened his grip on the sword. Now he was sure that Kang Hyunjun was not an ordinary guy, but in real combat, Hyun was superior to him. He wouldn't give the young man a chance to strike back. Hyun made a few swings with his sword, but the guy calmly dodged his blade. One moment he was standing in front of him, and then, as if with a snap of his fingers, he was behind him. Hyun frowned. When did Hyunjun manage to move? The young man inflicted several wounds on the opponent's shoulder. It became clear to Hyun that he was fast and only hit the pain points. The man sank to his knees, the strength slowly draining from his body. Kang Hyunjun told him to name the person who sent them, and then he would spare his life. Hyun angrily shouted at the guy to kill him. He wouldn't tell him anything. Hyunjun lowered his head and said in the man's ear that this was what he expected. He asked him just out of politeness. The knife plunged into the man's stomach. And it was even better that way. There was no evidence left. A black haze crept out of the ground, covering the corpses of the men and seemingly dragging them down with it. A voice alerted the guy that Hasashin's darkness was cleaning up all the evidence around him. Hasashin still possessed the youth's mind, just as he thought. It was just a bit of a slug. Kang Hyunjun went home as if nothing had happened, and behind him, two corpses were disappearing into the darkness. Opening the door of his apartment, the guy was at a loss why he drank so much. He didn't even remember how he got home. As he relaxed on the bed, he thought that if he had made it safely, then everything was fine, and there was nothing to worry about. Once again, he felt extremely tired. All he wanted right now was a good rest. His eyes closed and he fell asleep. In the morning, he woke up and took a shower. His phone vibrated, and Seokku's name was displayed on the screen. While making ramen, Hyunjun asked if his friend got home all right yesterday. Hot ramen after a shower, this is what the guy needed now after a stormy evening. Seokku informed him that he had found a Groot for him. Telling him to come immediately, he hung up. An angry Hyunjun hurriedly packed up and ran out of the house, taking his shield with him. He hailed a taxi and got in. They drove in silence as the driver's face contorted in horror. Kang Hyun-jong looked in his direction. A fireball was flying towards their car. The car caught fire. The guy reached for the handle of the car door and opened it, jumping out right on the move, landing painfully on the road. A few seconds later, the car hit a pole at full speed. Kang Hyun-jong took a closer look, and there was a strange silhouette in a hooded raincoat and a baton in his hand near the taxi. When he could see the face under the hood, he knew it was a monster. An orc sorcerer or something. Suddenly, a crowd of equally vile and ugly monsters appeared next to him. The leader with the baton released a stream of flame from his other hand, preparing to attack. The young man thought, it just couldn't be. Was the gate really open? The orc said something in an incomprehensible language, his speech unintelligible. Then, they'd all started shouting viciously and charged, attacking people passing by with their fists and guns. Kang Hyun-jong realized that at this rate, he would be late for the meeting. So, while people were running in all directions from this nightmare, the guy decided to act quickly. He needed to deal with their leader, the rod-wielding orc that he saw first. He lunged for it, guns whizzing past his head as they flew past with a frenzied force. He had to distract himself with one monster that got in his way. After the monster's failed attack, the guy swung and hit it with his shield with all his might. He paused to recover. It infuriated him that there was no end to these small fry. Hyun-jong finally reached the monster leader, sneaking up behind him and jumping high. The orc turned around and saw the guy with the shield flying towards him at high speed. He held up his staff to deflect the blow. The shield hit the staff with a loud noise. Their eyes met in their own battle, expressing anger and enmity. The young man wasted no time in making another powerful swing with his shield and attacking the orc once more. Passers, by running in all directions, turned to see the orc leader lying unconscious on the ground. Kang Hyun-jong thought about how he would definitely be late if he continued like this. An unfamiliar female voice roused him from his reverie. The girl praised his attack. She realized that the young man wasn't a member of any guild, but his abilities were too good to waste. There was no time to chat right now, so she decided to get straight to the point. The guy didn't know who the girl was at all. She handed him a business card and urged him to join their guild. As soon as he thinks about her offer, he will need to contact her at the number indicated on the business card. After saying that, she ran away. Orcs don't wait. He looked at what was written on the card she had given him. The Ace Guild. They were well known enough that he would definitely come back to them later, but this wasn't the time. Putting the business card in his pocket, Hyun-jong moved on, but his attention was caught by the people running out of the building screaming. Panic seized them. They begged to be saved, shouted that they did not want to die. The guy was perplexed. Monsters appeared not only on the street, but also in the shopping center. Although there was a mandatory clause that hunters were required to intervene if the gate opened, but fighting all these orcs face to face was too risky, no matter how strong he was. He remembered that Seok-ku had told him when they were drinking soju that Han Jinwoo had been promoted to a rank right after he returned alive. This meant that if Hyun-jong could defeat these monsters, he would be promoted to a rank, just like Han Jinwoo in his time. With a confident smile, he went to the mall. Inside, everything was engulfed in flames. The guy loudly asked if anyone was in the building. The fact that there weren't any orcs in the area made him uneasy. And there weren't any corpses in the room, as if someone had disposed of them. Who could have done such a monstrous thing? Out of the corner of his eye, he caught movement. Looking over, he saw an injured man. The latter approached him, asking if Hyun-jong was a hunter. The man asked him to get out of the building as soon as possible. It was too dangerous inside. The young man wondered what had happened to the man. Was he attacked by orcs? The victim shared with the guy his thoughts that this sudden opening of the gate was different from what usually happened in the world. According to him, most likely, someone was involved in this. Loud footsteps broke the silence of the deserted mall. One of the newcomers made it clear to the young man that he was expected here. The injured man asked the newcomers if they were allies. Kang Hyun-jong doubted it very much. The guns were pointed in their direction. The young man only asked who sent these fighters. The masked men replied that this information was of no use to him. He was going to die anyway. It looks like the man recognized these armed guys in masks. He asked if they were related to the Echo Guild's special squad. Their leader did not answer, but gave orders to his men not to let these two men live since they recognized them. The squad charged towards them, pointing their swords at them. Kang Hyun-jong successfully dodged the first attack, the sword whizzing over his head. The second sword was about to graze him when a purple haze suddenly appeared, slowly enveloping him. The masked men were wary. If this young man uses aura, then he's not as simple as he looks. It was impossible to relax. One of the Echo Special Squad charged at him from behind, but Hyun-jong turned around at the same time and jumped away from the sword. Then he was attacked from both sides, but he successfully dodged the sharp blades. Then, as the point of the weapon was about to strike from behind, the boy ducked, and the sword slid right over him. The young man appreciated the professionalism of these guys. They obviously killed before. The special squad members were getting impatient. After calling the guy a rude name, one of them swung and leaped at him. Hyunjun covered himself with his shield. The masked man was indignant. The youth blocked his attack. The young man ironically asked if he had finished. The other masked men decided to attack together since they couldn't do it alone. Kang Hyunjun calmly walked forward as the special squad members flew at him one by one. He blocked the first attack with his shield. Drawing his sword from its scabbard, he parried the next blow. Then he turned to the third guy, asking if he was going to attack him. He hesitated only a second before raising his sword at Hyunjun. The young man plunged his sword into him before he could strike. There was only one opponent left. The masked fighter thought that Hyunjun must be a monster, but his identity was exposed, and now the guild won't be able to protect him. And since this was the case, he would take the hostage with him. The guy heard the check come off the grenade. Looking closely, he realized it was a smoke grenade. When the smoke filled the room and nothing could be seen anymore, the Echo Special Squad member, the only survivor, charged at Hyunjun. The wounded man watched the battle intently. Hyunjun's blade sank into the masked man's stomach. Before he died, he only had time to ask how he managed it. The youth boldly replied that he was already used to this kind of thing. After saying that, he abruptly yanked the sword out of the fighter's body. The traumatized man Hyunjun had talked to before these guys arrived was amazed that Hyunjun had taken out the entire Special Forces unit on his own. He thanked the young man for saving him and casually asked if Hyunjun was a rank hunter. The guy didn't answer. It didn't matter. The man asked him to at least give his name, and Hyunjun called as he was about to leave. The man tried to delay him, saying that the dungeon clearing team should have arrived by now. The young man didn't care. The man said that although he looked pathetic right now, he was actually the head of the guild department. He was going to personally see to it that he was rewarded, so the guy should visit them sometime. Hyunjun replied that he would think about it as he left. The man called his name after him. His name was Kim Taemin. The boy considered Kim Taemin's words, even though he had told him that he would think about it, but he had claimed that the young man would definitely be rewarded, so there was no reason to refuse. He went to the guild department building and dialed Kim Taemin's number. The man immediately recognized Hyunjung's voice. The guy said that he came to see him. The head of the department replied that he would immediately come down and meet him, offering the young man lunch. Satisfied, Kim Taemin asked if the young man wanted anything else. But Hyunjung's face twisted in surprise. A large table was already set in front of him, replete with food and drinks. The man handed him the bag and asked him to take it. The young man was surprised. Was it a spatial bag? Kim Taemin replied that this space bag was of a special type. He wondered how the Bronze Guild could give such a valuable item to an ordinary hunter like him. The man saw from the boy's face what he was thinking and explained that they had noticed his abilities and the fact that Kang Hyunjun was carrying a weapon. The young man guessed that Kim Taemin intended to offer him something. The head of the department appreciated his quick wit and wished to get straight to the point. He asked the guy to help him and his guild. The young man didn't fully understand him. How can an ordinary C-rank hunter help them? The men replied that rank wasn't a problem. He had already shown them what he was capable of. So the Lease Guild was begging for his help. There was a voice in the boy's head that told him that the smell of death was present here. The voice told him to comply with Kim Taemin's request. This time the voice was different, and Hyunjung didn't know who was talking to him. He turned around, but there was no one behind him. The young man was ready to listen to the guild department head. The man began his story. They were going to have an unofficial war with the Echo Guild soon. An unofficial war is a battle between the special forces of both guilds. However, unlike the official war, where there are judges, there are no judges in the unofficial war, so you can kill your opponents. A voice in the boy's head told him that Reaper was advising him to accept the offer. Hyunjun thought that Kim Taemin would definitely reward him. In any case, he felt that he should accept the offer, but he decided to find out more. To do this, he got up and told the man that he refused his offer. A spatial bag was fine, but he would have to put his life on the line. He allowed himself to think that the guild must be desperate to ask for the help of a C-rank hunter. Kim Taemin lowered his head sadly. He offered the guy this scenario. Their special squad will help him at any time when it is necessary. The young man liked it. Aloud, he asked if they were sure that he could be given such authority and, in general, trusted. The department head replied that the guild master had already given his consent. Hyunjung smiled. If that was really the case, then he would gladly accept the offer. The girl at the reception desk apologized to Kang Hyunjun for making it difficult for him to enter the C-rank dungeon due to the long waiting list. He asked if it was possible to enter a dungeon ranked higher. She told him that, according to the rules, he must be an A-rank or higher hunter or part of a professional group to enter a high-rank dungeon. A professional group. It reminded him of the business card that the stranger had given him during the battle with the orcs. He dialed the number he needed. The voice on the other side of the phone was glad to hear him. The girl greeted Hyunjun. She told him that she had been waiting for his call. The young man was not in the mood for pleasantries. He went straight to the point. He needed to know if she had a schedule of professional group raids. The girl frowned, thinking that the guy wanted to join her ace guild. But she recovered quickly. It was even good. Hyunjong should at least try it out before joining. She told him that their group was planning a raid on a B-rank dungeon and invited him to join them. Departure was scheduled for the next day. Kang Hyunjong is going to raid. He was waiting at the entrance when someone would come to pick him up. An expensive car with a personal driver came to pick him up, and the guy getting into the car noted that everything is completely different for professional groups. The girl who had invited him to the raid was now sitting next to him. She was sure that after seeing their level, the young man would immediately want to join them. Hyunjun thought to himself how rude she was. She seemed to be chatting all the way, and when they arrived, she was upset that they got there so quickly, and the guy was already feeling tired. He got out of the car and saw a group of people. He wondered if they were a professional ace band. After all, Choi Han-suk, an A-rank hunter who uses magic, was among them. The girl who also saw Choi Han-suk happily addressed him using the word oppa. The young man was surprised. Was she the younger sister of an A-rank hunter? Choi Han-suk was first wary when he heard a familiar female voice, and then they happily ran to each other's meeting place to hug. Along the way, the girl introduced him to Hyunjong, the guy she had told her brother about. Kwon Han-suk held out his hand to greet him and said that he had heard a lot about him from his sister, Yi-sul. They introduced themselves, and it was revealed that Choi Han-suk was the leader of the professional group ace. He happily asked if Hyunjong was ready to join their team. The young man noted that he hadn't said anything about joining yet. Yi-sul answered for him that he would be joining soon. The guy got angry, who told them that he would be joining their guild soon. But the siblings were already ready to work on getting Hyunjong to join them. The young man thought how crazy this guild was. A bold man beckoned him over. From his space pocket, he took out a large shining sword and said that in B-rank dungeons and above, it was difficult to attack using normal weapons, especially if it was his first B-rank dungeon. Although they would just lend him this sword, it was better than the one he had used earlier. The boy took the weapon carefully. He didn't understand why the squad was doing this for him. The man replied that they had received the order. Anyway, what difference does it make? Aren't they a team now? Hyunjong stared at the sword in fascination, thanking the man and promising that he would try his best. Choi Han-suk encouraged everyone to complete the final briefing. He told them about their formation, according to which Hyunjong would be in the rear. If any unforeseen situation happens, everyone needs to follow Han-suk's orders. With Hyunjong bringing up the rear and Choi Yi-sul walking in front of him, it felt like he was her personal guard. Choi Han-suk used A-rank spatial magic, and the entrance to the dungeon opened up in front of them. When everyone came in, he told everyone that they should start by cleaning up the monsters from the move towards them. Choi Han-suk hummed as he released a powerful stream of blue light from his palm, slaying the monster outright. Yi-sul jokingly asked why her brother always uses useless magic chanting. The latter, in the same manner, replied that this singing looks cool. Hyunjong was not in the mood for jokes. Such power surprised him. The monsters circled above them even faster and fiercer. The squad seemed to have angered them. Han Seok called for everyone to gather, and the squad charged into battle. Kwan Bai, the guy in armor who started the first line of attackers in their formation, charged at the monster. Everyone else joined in behind him. Hyunjun watched the battle with delight. That's what it means to be a pro band. It was incredible. He didn't even think they were that good. The bald man who turned out to be Do-sik pointed out that this was a small dungeon, and it would be fine if they just went ahead. Hyunjun appreciated their tactics. The voices of the other squad members rang out. They were tormented by doubts. The dungeon is short, but the boss will be much more difficult to defeat. Choi Han-suk reassured them they can handle it. It's unexpectedly quiet. A crowd of people entered the room, and the candle that was standing there went out. Suddenly, something pierced Kwang Ba. Are these nightmares? The man quickly ordered everyone to form up. There are 12 of them. There are too many of them. The man was attacked, and he told Kwang Ba that he needed to hold on a little longer. He slammed his fist into the floor and covered everything with ice. Thanks to Choi Han-suk, the number of monsters has decreased. He exhaled heavily, and the others were visibly exhausted. One guy thought they looked tired, but that wasn't surprising. They would have had a hard time without him. Danzig will possess you to strengthen your resolve. The man called out to Kang Hyun-jong and said that if he destroyed the formation, he would not be able to stop it. The guy thought, what kind of formation is this? Because he doesn't have time for this. He attacked the nightmares. The man said he would help him. Kang Hyun-jung thought that, as expected, the skills were worthy of an A-rank hunter. He asked to cover him, but said that he would take care of the remaining monsters. Together, they defeated the nightmares. Is this the end? But they were told that there was another boss ahead. Something's coming. The monster attacked the guy sharply, but he managed to cover himself with a shield. The men asked how he blocked it, if it was an aura shield. The guy sighed heavily. He thought that it would be difficult to continue using his left hand. The essence of Danzig is amplified. Your physical abilities and recovery have greatly increased. The guy squeezed his hand. He understood what it was, but he felt a certain power. He can't miss this chance. The man turned to Kang Hyun-jong. The guy asked Yi Seul how much longer he could cover him and said that 5 minutes was the maximum. That's enough. The guy fought with the monster, repelled its attacks with a shield. He thought about how he was too strong, so he would have to stop mining his mana crystals and hit the core. He found the core and attacked it. Yi Seul thought that it was the power of an awakened hunter if Kang Hyun-jong was going to join their guild. The man asked Kwang Ba how he felt and if he could move, and the man asked if it was over. The man said he would call a medic. Kang Hyun-jong thought that this was great. He would probably be forced to join, so he better leave now. He said that it looked like he wasn't needed here anymore, so he would go first, to which the man replied that he was sorry. He would have said they would see each other, but the guy replied that he didn't have to worry. They needed to make sure they paid him. Message from Old Village Bank. Payment from Ace Professional Group 50 million. 50 million won. A lot more than he expected. The guy thought that he was very tired. The last holy sword awaits you. The sword was stuck in the floor, sparks flying from it, and the guy was looking at it. It looks good, take the sword. Kang Hyun-jong picked up the sword and said it was great. And you have a sharp eye for a beginner. Someone told the guy that he is one of his past lives. Sidon Miller is a holy sword. He wondered what kind of new past life this was, but it looked very familiar. The unknown person asked if he could use the sword aura. He remembers the times when he was in his body. The guy remembered the fight and asked if it was then. Unknown said, remember this feeling, stream right now. Kang Hyun-jong raised his sword, thinking that it was like he was using the aura of a shield. The unknown man smiled and said that Kasago had trained him better than he had imagined. The guy replied that it felt like a shield, so it was harder for him to control this aura. He said there didn't seem to be anything he could do, so he would give him a little help. The man put a hand on his back. He said to memorize the flow of his magic. The guy was overflowing with power. The unknown person advised him not to resist and accept it. This is a magical resonance. In reality, he would have already died. Kang Hyun-jong thought that now aura, she was completely different. He said he didn't care, and then asked me to do it again. The unknown person agreed and said that he would repeat it. That's not bad. Other past lives were right. He's really good. And it looks like he might even be able to become a master of using sword aura. The unknown man took out a sword and said that it was great, and now he would show him what he could do. Now he has to watch carefully. He spent his entire life swinging his sword with incredible speed. The guy was shocked, and in the end, an unknown person pointed a sword at him. He asked if he could do it again. The guy thought that he had coped with Kasago's training, and this one was all the better for him. He said he would try. After a while, past life said it wasn't bad. He's more capable than he expected. On that note, they can finish their first training session. The guy asked if they could meet again, to which he was told that only if he was ready. They said goodbye and said they'd see each other again. Past life thought that maybe this time it would work out. The guy was in the woods and wondered if that would be enough. I need to remember his swordsmanship again. From memory, he began to repeat the movements that his previous life had made. The unofficial guild war is coming very soon. He needs to continue training. Only in this way can he become even stronger. On the day of the unofficial war, Kang Hyun-jun and Kim Taemin discussed their chances of winning. Taemin revealed that they also have 2 B rank hunters and 4 C rank hunters, and the number of Echo Guild fighters is much higher, so the chances of defeating them without Kang Hyun-jong's help are 0. All Taemin can do is rely on the boy's strength. After discussing the situation, they arrived at the battlefield. They felt like they were being ambushed, and the whole thing was more like some kind of performance. The fighters put on their masks, hiding their real identities, and were about to enter the territory of the unofficial war, when suddenly Kang Hyun-jong rushed ahead of all the fighters, intending to single-handedly finish off those who were hiding in an ambush. The guy took out his weapon from the portal and cut 2 opponents at once with 1 blow, which shocked his allies. The opponents who watched this were also impressed. Their commander ordered them all to attack at once. Taemin's clan also didn't stand aside and went on the attack. A bloodbath ensued, with Kang Hyun-jong at the epicenter, killing one person after another. Seeing this, the Echo clan commander decided to deal with the guy personally. Kang Hyun-jong also decided to fight the commander, deciding that if he finished with him, then all the ordinary fighters wouldn't be a barrier. Deciding to fight with full force, the guy pounced on the enemy. They blocked each other's every strike, not allowing anyone to strike. This battle was so fascinating that some of the fighters from both sides just watched the duel, forgetting about the unofficial war. Kang Hyun-jong was slowly pushing his opponent back. However, an outsider released a fireball at the guy. This distracted Kang Hyun-jong, which his opponent took advantage of and forced the guy to go into a blind defense. Turning around, Kang Hyun-jong noticed that his allies, meanwhile, had already been defeated. The only hope was for him, but this duel was clearly not going in his favor. The Echo Guild commander suggested that the guy surrender, and in that case, he would spare him. He initially pretended that he wanted to agree, but as soon as his enemy relaxed his vigilance, he stepped out of defense and struck. The enemy managed to dodge, but then the rest of the Echo fighters intervened in the battle. The guy was no longer able to fight all of them at once. Hoping for help, the guy started shouting out the names of his past lives. The natives of Echo had already decided that the guy had gone mad and were going to kill him, not knowing about the true strength of the guy. However, Kang Hyun-jung didn't respond to any of his past lives. He began to cry out, begging for someone's help, thus awakening a new rebirth, the Reaper. The guy immediately felt a surge of strength and continued the fight. Kang Hyun-jung began to cut the enemy's bodies one by one. Gradually, the Reaper's power increased due to the growing bloodlust. It required the guy to kill each opponent, pointing out their weak points. Kang Hyun-jung immediately obeyed and started to start a massacre. The opponents, meanwhile, could not understand why the guy had so much power. They attacked all at once, hoping to regain their advantage, but it was no use. With each passing second, Echo's fighters were getting smaller and smaller. One of them desperately thought that he could break the blade with his bare hands, but then he felt a terrible twinge of pain. As it turned out, the sword was covered up to its ears in a murderous aura, making any touches to it incredibly painful. However, the fighter did not let go of the sword, thereby allowing his commander to strike. Kang Hyun-jung managed to block it with his shield and knock leader Echo away. He crashed into a tree, and his mask was half destroyed. The leader of the Echo clan, Ju Kyun-suk, was defeated in a single blow. After seeing this, the surviving fighters decided that Kang Hyun-jung was at least an A-rank hunter. One of the wounded men tried to run away, abandoning his guild, but Kang Hyun-jung immediately caught up with him, cutting him down with his sword. The Reaper continued to observe this battle and pointed out that there was still one surviving Echo member left. In an unofficial guild war, the battle lasts until one of the parties is destroyed, and therefore Kang Hyun-jung is obliged to kill everyone, but the remaining opponent has already lost the desire to fight. Doubts appeared in the boy's heart. He didn't want to kill this poor guy. But his past life, the Reaper, had ordered the end of this fighter. Kang Hyun-jung took another look at him and delivered a finishing blow. When it was all over and the surviving allies recovered, Kang Hyun-jung talked about how he single-handedly dealt with the entire Echo Guild, after which he was transferred 150,000. After a while, the director of the Echo Guild was informed that communication with Ju Hyun-suk was impossible, as well as with all the other fighters who were in an unofficial war. This made the director incredibly angry. He asked his assistant to find out the name of the mercenary hired by the Ace Guild, after which he intends to teach him a lesson. Kang Hyun-jung was happy to see the large amount in his account, but he didn't like the way he got the money. However, for the sake of the orphanage, he was willing to get into any mud. Soon, Kang Hyun-jun arrived at this very shelter with a big gift for the kids. Knocking on the door and entering, he found Nuna. After greeting her, he asked her where the director was now. The girl replied that she had not been feeling well lately, and therefore Nuna was helping her. Kang Hyun-jun was worried about her, but soon the director herself came to them, saying that she was fine, and Nuna should now work as a support hunter. After that, the old woman moved on to Kang Hyun-jung, accepting his gift. Kang Hyun-jun, as well as the old woman, asked Nuna why she wasn't on a raid right now. The girl replied that she had enough time to work as a hunter and help the shelter. Accepting this answer, Kang Hyun-jung asked the girl not to overwork, after which the director of the shelter noted that the guy might not bring anything at all, but Kang Hyun-jung really wanted to give something to the children. Nuna asked how Kang Hyun-jung got so much money for such gifts. He lied about being promoted to C rank, which gave him a generous payoff. The old woman was proud of Kang Hyun-jung for this, but he replied that he was just lucky. While he was tying up the ribbon on the gift box, Nuna decided to check if Kang Hyun-jung was doing anything dangerous. He, clearly nervous, denied everything, and then took a gift to the children who were on the street at that time. As soon as she and Nuna left, the old woman began to think of Kang Hyun-jung as a young boy. He's been very close to Nuna all his life, and when he became an F-rank hunter, they gave him a surprise and a big celebration. Meanwhile, Nuna decided to ask Kang Hyun-jung if things were going well at the shelter. The guy asked not to worry about the shelter's debts because he would take care of them. After that, they were noticed by the local children, who immediately ran to Kang Hyun-jung. The boy placed a large gift box in front of him, after which some of the children immediately started sorting out the sweets, and some went to hug Kang Hyun-jung, thanking him for his generosity. However, they soon all headed back to the house as the director of the shelter announced dinner. Fresh pizza was waiting for them today. Kang Hyun-jun and Nuna also went to the house. The children were happily eating pizza when one of Kang Hyun-jung's past lives, Hasashin, warned the boy that someone was following him. Looking out the window, he ordered everyone to immediately hide under the table. An explosion occurred. However, there was practically no mayhem due to the fact that Kang Hyun-jung managed to activate his shield. After that, he summoned the righteous shield of Karsango and the valiant blade of Sidon Miller, preparing for battle. Nuna wanted to help Kang Hyun-jong, but Kang Hyun-jong asked her to go to the children and the headmaster so that if anything happened, she could heal their wounds. Meanwhile, the strangers who attacked the shelter entered the building. After the guy used the aura, they made sure that their opponent was really at least a B-rank hunter. 20 people surrounded Kang Hyun-jong. One of them told the guy that their boss wanted his head. After that, the guy called his opponents to him, and they attacked all at once, using many different techniques. Kang Hyun-jong also entered the battle, immediately knocking out one of the attackers. The others were surprised by this strength and decided to outsmart Kang Hyun-jong rather than risk it. They started attacking the children by launching several fireballs at them. Kang Hyun-jong knew that before he could reach them, he threw his shield, blocking the fireballs flying at the children and Nuna. Kang Hyun-jong was left without a shield, which made it quite difficult. However, he continued to attack just as vigorously, killing 6 people at a time. However, after that, he was completely exhausted, and there were still 11 opponents left. Kang Hyun-jong called for the Reaper's help. Awakened by this call, Kang Hyun-jong's past life grabbed all the fighters, allowing him to finish off a few more fighters. But soon, the Reaper's technique collapsed and one of the fighters nearly cut Kang Hyun-jong in half. It was followed by another opponent's attack. Kang Hyun-jong managed to dodge, but he soon collapsed. Nuna immediately ran to him, hoping to restore the boy's strength with healing, but it didn't work. Kang Hyun-jong felt weak, and his vision gradually turned dark. When everything turned into a solid darkness, he heard the voice of a new past life that promised to give the guy strength. Kang Hyun-jong found himself at the wooden gate. After passing through them, he found a mountain of corpses, on top of which sat his past life. She introduced herself as Danvig and said that when he was alive, he could not protect his loved ones and eventually lost everything. But he doesn't want Kang Hyun-jong to suffer the same fate, so he said that if Kang Hyun-jong endured the pain he felt, then he would give him the strength to protect those who are dear to him. Kang Hyun-jong agreed to these conditions, and a small ball of light appeared next to him. Touching it, Kang Hyun-jong found himself in the garden. In this place, he couldn't speak and could only observe. Here he found Danzig, to whom his daughter was running. She hugged her father tightly and jumped into his arms, after which he began to stroke her head. She asked him to stop because Danzig was ruining her hair, but he wouldn't stop. Soon, his wife appeared as well. In these 3, Kang Hyun-jong saw his family. However, a soldier soon came running to Danzig, announcing that their kingdom had been invaded. From this moment, according to the previous life, hell begins. The attackers killed Danzig's comrades and then his family. Seeing their lifeless bodies, he hoped it was just a dream, and then he sat down on his knees, sobbing and screaming at the top of his lungs. Seeing this picture, Kang Hyun-jong immediately imagined himself and his family in their place, but managed to pull himself together in time. Danzig, meanwhile, was wounded by a certain assassin. He asked me to tell him why he was doing all this. The mysterious armored assassin replied that it was just an order. Danzig swore that he would kill the man, but soon received a finishing blow directly to the head. Danzig was dead. After showing Kang Hyun-jong his backstory, Danzig agreed to give the boy his power so that he could return to the world of the living and show them all their power. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun-jong's real body began to emit a blinding light. Kang Hyun-jong came to his senses and was full of new strength. His opponents immediately felt it, noting that Kang Hyun-jong was different. The determination of Danzig, the man who had lost everything, filled Kang Hyun-jong's body. His opponents at the same time saw him as a monster because he should already be dead. Hearing this, Kang Hyun-jong's thirst for Reaper blood was aroused. Kang Hyun-jong killed one of the opponents at once, after which the remaining enemies attacked all at once. But before that, they used the thunder technique in the hopes that it would kill Kang Hyun-jong, but he survived the attack. His opponents realized that he was many times stronger than the intelligence reported. Kang Hyun-jong took off his shredded jacket and finished off several of his opponents with a single jerk. 2 more tried to fight back with lightning and fire magic. As soon as Kang Hyun-jong started walking towards them, he was stopped by a swordsman who was much stronger than he originally thought. He managed to knock Kang Hyun-jong off balance and land a punch. Nuna, seeing this, immediately ran to the guy. However, thanks to Danzig's strength, he withstood this blow and continued the battle, piercing the swordsman. The latter, on the verge of death, said that even if he managed to survive now, their boss would not leave him as long as he was alive. However, Kang Hyun-jong didn't care. He cut the swordsman in half, replying that they had picked the wrong opponent. The remaining 2 mages, realizing that they didn't stand a chance, fell to their knees and begged for mercy, but Kang Hyun-jong, who was still under the influence of the Reaper's bloodlust, wasn't going to let anyone live by cutting them both down. When it was over, the bloodied guy fell unconscious. He woke up in the hospital, seeing Nuna and Taemin in front of him. The man apologized to the guy for the fact that he did not have time to arrive on time. Kang Hyun-jong asked Nuna to bring him some water, and then he and Taemin were left alone. Guild leader Ace told the guy that most of the guild is currently guarding this hospital and no one will dare to attack Kang Hyun-jong at the moment. The guy asked me to tell you what happened while he was out. As it turned out, after that bloody massacre, the police arrived at the shelter. They were informed about the Hunter's attack, but no evidence was found. They were very difficult to save due to the fact that the Ace Guild was busy protecting the residents of the shelter at this time. Kang Hyun-jun thanked Taemin for his help, then decided to find out how the Hunters managed to find Kang Hyun-jun. Taemin replied that they probably had a guild in their guild. Kang Hyun-jung asked for a guard to be assigned to his family, after which he agreed to join the war with the Echo Guild. Taemin was incredibly happy to hear this and promised to provide him and his family with everything they needed. Kang Hyun-jung also asked him to track down the rat that leaked information to his opponents. The man asked the guy not to worry about it. After that, he decided to rest and get some sleep, chased Taemin out of the room. As soon as he left, he was informed that the traitor had been found. Taemin started toward him. Kim Taemin arrived at the place where the traitor of their guild was detained. When he entered the small garage, he found a terrified, bound man sitting on a chair. He was incredibly scared by Kim Taemin's arrival and asked for his forgiveness for what he had done, but the man wasn't going to let him get away with it so easily. Drawing his sword, he warned the poor fellow that he would die very slowly. The traitor's eyes were clearly filled with despair. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun-jung found himself in the room of his next past life. Kasashin was already waiting for him there. Kang Hyun-jung admitted that he needed his power, so his past life agreed to teach him how to use the new ability. It allows you to completely hide your presence in the dark. This surprised Kang Hyun-jung, as even many S-rank hunters can't do this, but Kasashin asked not to compare him to what he called trash, and then got down to business. Kasashin told me that the technique he wants to teach Kang Hyun-jung is based on magic, which means that when he uses it, it will have the same effect as if he was hiding behind a thick curtain. However, he also warned that the ability consumes a lot of mana, just like any other high-level technique. After that, Kasashin got down to business. Darkness began to surround Kang Hyun-jung. Kasashin said that in order to hide himself, the guy must become one with the darkness. But if he stays in total darkness for too long, he might just lose his mind. After that, Kasashin asked Kang Hyun-jung if he still wanted to learn this technique. He immediately agreed, and then the training began. Kang Hyun-jung was completely surrounded by darkness. With every moment he spent in it, he began to panic more and more, eventually begging Kasashin to bring him back, not understanding why he was here. After a while, Kang Hyun-jung sat limply on his knees, thinking that this was the end. However, at this moment, many doppelgangers from the darkness formed in front of him and began to humiliate Kang Hyun-jung, calling him a weakling and claiming that even though he wanted to save his family, he was no stronger than an ordinary baby. However, Kang Hyun-jung immediately saw through the ruse and realized that Kasashin was sending these illusions. Soon, he appeared in front of Kang Hyun-jung and pulled him out of the darkness. He admitted that the guy looked too helpless, so he decided to help him out a little. In the end, it really worked and Kang Hyun-jung managed to learn the technique. He also added that although Kang Hyun-jung's control of darkness is not perfect, even with such skills, almost no one will be able to defeat him. Kasashin said goodbye to the guy, after which he abruptly woke up. Checking the time, Kang Hyun-jung was surprised that he hadn't even slept for a day, even though he felt like he had been there for at least a year. Soon, Kim Taemin came in and told him that the traitor was finished. Kang Hyun-jung was surprised that the man had completed the task so quickly. After that, the guy decided to find out what the Echo Guild was currently doing. Taemin revealed that they were preparing a second attack. Hearing this, Kang Hyun-jung immediately started putting on his clothes, wanting to head to their office. Taemin tried to stop him, thinking that it would be too much for Kang Hyun-jung to defeat the entire guild on his own, but he was confident in his abilities. After asking him to take care of his family, Kang Hyun-jung headed towards the Echo Guild office. In the late afternoon, the guy was there. Kang Hyun-jung immediately used the Kasashin technique. He was sure that on this day, the Echo Guild would cease to exist. 2 guards of the Echo Guild office were on the lookout. One of them, admiring the sky, heard something. However, the second one reminded Tom of the magic barrier that would detect any movement, but at the same time, this guard was killed. The surviving guard tried to take some action, but soon fell to the ground with his throat cut. Kang Hyun-jung liked his new technique. He found out that even the smallest shadow was enough to hide his entire body, which undoubtedly played into Tom's hands. Walking along the corridors of the office, the guy heard the conversations of local employees. They were just discussing Kang Hyun-jung and how he was able to defeat the Special Forces Hunter Squad single-handedly. The guy decided to turn off the lights in the entire building to put himself in a winning position. Some of the guards were wary, but many also thought that this was just a small interruption because no one would dare to attack the Echo Guild. Soon, the guard who thought so was dead, followed by the other one. After that, Kang Hyun-jung headed to the 4th floor. Meanwhile, there were many guards in the headmaster's office. He didn't like the fact that it took so long to fix the electricity, so he demanded that at least a spare generator be turned on. However, the man also noted that all this looks like hell strange, because in the neighboring buildings the lights are on, and on the lower floors it is suspiciously quiet. The director ordered all the guards to arm themselves, because the Nan could attack them at any moment. As it turned out, he was right. Soon, some of the guards were immediately killed. The survivors immediately guessed that it was a concealing technique, and the mages activated the light techniques, but this did not help the fighters much. The chief was also wary, not understanding why a fighter with such powerful skills would forget in this place. Kang Hyun-jong, meanwhile, couldn't get close to the enemy because of the light spells, so he decided to finish off all the mages first. After that, the light drones were activated, trying to light up the room as much as possible, but it was useless. Kang Hyun-jong had already slaughtered most of the fighters. There are only 3 people left. The guards thought they were being attacked by an A-rank hunter, but the headmaster was sure that they were being attacked by an S-rank mini. Soon both guards were killed. The director was left alone with Kang Hyun-jun. His sword began to burn with a bright flame, and he began to shoot out bursts of fire in all directions, thus dispelling Kang Hyun-jong's technique. The headmaster recognized him immediately and was furious. He blamed Kang Hyun-jong for killing Hyojin, but he didn't understand what he was talking about. However, he remembered that on the day when the girl broke up with Kang Hyun-jong, it was this man who was sitting in the car. He believed that Kang Hyun-jun killed Hyojin because the girl was a C-rank hunter and didn't, in his opinion, just die like that. Adding to the suspicion was the fact that Kang Hyun-jong was the only survivor in that place. However, Kang Hyun-jong himself denied everything, claiming that he came to this office to avenge his family. However, the man didn't want to hear anything. He attacked Kang Hyun-jong, throwing fireballs around. The guy, in turn, took out the righteous shield of Karsago and the sword of courage of Sidon Miller, and also awakened the Reaper's bloodlust. Kang Hyun-jun, after learning that the man in front of him was Hyojin's father, didn't want to kill him, but as long as he was the target of the Echo Guild, his family was under threat, so he had no choice but to finish off the person in front of him. The head of the Echo Guild didn't understand how Kang Hyun-jong managed to use aura when he was just a C-rank hunter. This made the guy incredibly angry, and he rushed into battle. Kang Hyun-jong saw that the man was having a hard time fending off his attacks and wondered what it would be like to fight someone he had looked down on recently. However, the head of the Echo Guild claimed that the guy underestimated him, and then used the A-rank technique, Flame Fever, gaining an advantage over Kang Hyun-jong for a second. However, the guy was only disappointed when he saw this ability, dispelling the man's technique with a single swipe. The man was shocked to see this, claiming that the guy knew about this technique even before the battle. Kang Hyun-jong, on the other hand, had been on the edge of life and death about 100,000 times in his past lives, so such attacks were tolerable for him. Kang Hyun-jong started to walk around the Echo chapter, slicing first its arm and then its stomach. Head Echo fell to his knees, threatening the guy with their guild sponsor. But soon Kang Hyun-jun shut the man up for good. However, he took his words about sponsors into account and decided that he should become stronger. But then the voice of past lives rang out in his mind. They said that since they had shared their power with him, it was now his turn to help them. Soon, the table next to Kang Hyun-jong started to burn red. The Reaper was pointing out something that was rightfully his. Opening it, he found a small wooden box containing a dagger and a necklace. Taking them with him, Kang Hyun-jong headed for the exit, determined to burn down the entire building so as to leave no trace of himself. Thanks to this, his family will be safe for a while. A large crowd of civilians instantly formed around the fire, and a special police squad also arrived. They interviewed passers-by in order to find out more about this incident, but none of the ordinary people noticed exactly how this fire occurred. Soon, the special squad officer was informed that absolutely no one was found inside the building, not even the bodies of the victims. It looked very suspicious, but the officer didn't have any leads to draw any conclusions. Little did he know that the culprit was right around the corner of one of the buildings right now. Kang Hyun-jun, once he was sure that there was no evidence left, decided that he could relax. However, his burnt clothes might seem suspicious, so he called Kim Taemin and asked him to come to the Echo Guild building. At this moment, Kang Hyun-jong's strength began to fail, and he fell unconscious. After a while, the sponsors of the Echo Guild were informed that this guild had been destroyed. Because of the burnt-out building, they lost absolutely all their soldiers. The man who was apparently the sponsor was wondering how this could have happened, considering how much money he had invested in their guild. However, he was informed that they had been doing very poorly recently, but they deliberately concealed it. The informant also told the sponsor that in a recent unofficial war, the Echo Guild lost to the Ace Guild because of a very capable mercenary who changed the entire outcome of the battle. The sponsor was sure that Osing was involved. After all, apart from them, there are no other possible sponsors capable of such a thing. The men asked me to link him to the S-rank guild and ask him to deal with the Ace Guild and that mercenary. Kang Hyun-jong found himself in another room of his previous life, where the Reaper was already waiting for him. He asked the boy to pass him the box, which Kang Hyun-jong didn't even notice at first. The Reaper opened the box and found a necklace inside. Crying, he thanked the Reaper boy. As it turns out, this necklace is the last thing he's ever loved. As soon as he picked it up, the soul of that girl appeared in front of him. Her name was Florian. They both longed to see each other again, even after death. A lot of butterflies appeared out of nowhere, and the Reaper promised to pay Kang Hyun-jong back for finding the necklace. Soon, he woke up with tears in his eyes. During this time, the guy's empathy for the Reaper increased. Empathy for previous lives increases the connection between Kang Hyun-jong and the past life so that he can feel their emotions. Kang Hyun-jun was in the hospital. He guessed that it must have been Kim Tae-min who carried him to it. On the table, he also noticed a box containing a knife. The necklace was gone. Kang Hyun-jun decided it would be a good idea to head to the artifact appraiser later. At that moment, Kim Tae-min entered the room, revealing that Kang Hyun-jong's family was currently resting at their guild office. He also said that after the incident with the Echo Guild, many of its members began to leave it, and the police launched an investigation, but no evidence was found. After accepting this, Kang Hyun-jong asked to report news related to the case to him, and also asked to find a home for his family that would be safe for them. Kim Tae-min agreed. After which Kang Hyun-jun decided to find out if there was any unofficial information about the Echo Guild, but Tae-min had already told the guy everything he knew, but he promised that he would do everything to track Echo's movements. After a while, Kang Hyun-jong arrived at the appraiser's place, showing him the dagger. After checking it, the man was quite surprised. This dagger was a sealed weapon. This meant that some of the dagger's important abilities were sealed. The appraiser has only heard about such items once, but this is the first time he has met them in person. He also revealed that in order to unleash the true power of the dagger, Kang Hyun-jong will have to fulfill special conditions step by step, thereby unlocking the power of the weapon. Right now, the knife, even though it was sealed, had options for absorbing power and improving the user's physical condition, and its name was Butcher. If all the seals are removed from the weapon, it will be evaluated as a weapon of at least S rank. It also had a recovery function. If Kang Hyun-jong shouted that word, the dagger would come back to him. When the appraiser fully analyzed the weapon, he gave the guy a 1,000,001 price tag. Seeing this, Kang Hyun-jong decided not to evaluate the other weapons, considering them weaker than the dagger. After paying the appraiser, Kang Hyun-jong headed for the exit. Outside, his phone rang. It was Kim Tae-min who reported finding a suitable home. Kang Hyun-jong immediately arrived at the specified address and, after checking the house in person, asked the broker when he would be able to move in. However, the house wasn't completely finished yet, but if Kang Hyun-jong invested a little more money, the construction would be completed much faster. The guy agreed to this and the deal went through. Kang Hyun-jun thanked his past lives. Kang Hyun-jong was being watched by his past lives. One of them started to reach for Cartago, but the jock was only thinking about his muscles. Cartago was disappointed with Kang Hyun-jun and announced that from now on, Kang Hyun-jun's training was banned. After a while, towards nightfall, Kang Hyun-jong arrived at the Ace Guild office, where he was greeted by his family from the shelter. Nuna asked where the guy had been all along. Kang Hyun-jong also suggested that the girl discuss something. He told Nuna that he had bought them a new house where their family would live. The girl was shocked by this. She didn't understand how the guy got the money to buy a whole house, but Kang Hyun-jong himself asked Nuna not to worry about it because the main thing is that his family is protected. Nuna thanked the guy from the bottom of her heart, after which she admitted that she guessed that Kang Hyun-jong got involved in something very dangerous, but he again asked not to worry. Kang Hyun-jun also added that he is considering hiring a bodyguard and installing an unmanned security system in his new home. The Ace Guild had informed him that they would send a hunter to them, so they didn't have to worry about security. After saying that, Kang Hyun-jong was about to leave, but Nuna asked him to spend the night at their place, saying that she felt relieved to have him here. Kang Hyun-jun agreed to Nuna's persuasion, and you suggested that the boy eat ramen together. However, the guy lied to the girl that he was very tired today and hurried to another room. As soon as Kang Hyun-jong was out of sight, Nuna immediately started thinking about him. She knew that he wanted to take care of all the shelters because this was the only place where he was accepted. That's why Kang Hyun-jun does so much for her family, but she doesn't want him to change after the numerous murders. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun-jong himself was lying on the bed, thinking about Noon, but soon one of his previous lives alerted him to the approaching danger. The guy immediately got up from the bed, and in a second there were already 2 thrown knives on it. Kang Hyun-jong knew that they were only attacked by 3 people, and if he eliminated them quickly, the family would be safe. One of the mercenaries cast a magic spell, which the swordsman blocked with his shield, and then with a single jerk, he went to the swordsman, pushing him into the wall. The impact was so powerful that the mercenary died. After that, it wasn't difficult to kill the mage. After killing 2 of the mercenaries, he sensed that the 3rd mercenary was now at Nuna's side. Kang Hyun-jong immediately ran to her room. The mercenary had already swung his dagger and was about to stab the girl, but at the last moment, a butcher flew out of nowhere, fending off the mercenary's knife. As soon as he was unarmed, Kang Hyun-jong cut down the enemy with ease. All 3 mercenaries were killed, but Kang Hyun-jong sensed something was wrong. Judging by the fact that no one was woken up by the noise, they had all already been put to sleep. Moreover, there were no Ace Guild people to be seen anywhere. Kang Hyun-jung decided to contact Kim Tae-min, but his phone was unavailable. In this case, the guy sent a message to the special police department and then went to personally protect the Ace Guild. Kim Tae-min sat on the bench, looking tired. When Kang Hyun-jung arrived, he told him that the guild leader had died. Kang Hyun-jung knew that Kim Tae-min was currently heartbroken and didn't know what to say, but the man started the conversation himself. He asked the guy to become the new Ace Guild leader. As it turned out, on the day of the unofficial war, while watching Kang Hyun-jong's battle, Kim Tae-min realized that Kang Hyun-jong is not just a strong person, but a kind and proud person who does not abuse his trust. All the guild members also agreed, so Kim Tae-min begged Kang Hyun-jong to become the new head of the guild. At this moment, a new past life of the guy was awakened. The Black Mafia, the leader of a criminal organization, was interested in this offer and wanted the guy to accept it. Kang Hyun-jong himself was shocked by this turn of events. However, he soon realized that if he became the head of the guild, he would be able to receive help from the hunters under his control, as well as even better protect his family. Kim Tae-min also added that they no longer have any candidates other than Kang Hyun-jung. The guy, after thinking everything over, agreed to become the leader and then asked Kim Tae-min to prepare all the necessary documents. The Black Mafia was happy with this outcome, but also noted that he could see through the guild's fake identity. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun-jung was sorting through all the documents. He noted that the guild's financial situation was quite good. However, the number of permanent guild members was small and the size of the executive body was small. As it turned out, the Ace Guild was founded by the previous head to get all the benefits of the magic crystal, and therefore the hunting corps was created recently. Kim Tae-min also added that when guild members attack a dungeon and sell a magic stone, they receive an additional tax. Kang Hyun-jung decided that the Ace Guild was now moving to an aggressive strategy. He knew that the Echo Guild was in a frenzy right now, so there was a good chance that what had happened last night might happen again. Therefore, the first thing they need to do is to devour the Echo Guild. Kim Tae-min was surprised by the decision. Kang Hyun-jung also suggested making it an official guild battle. According to the rules, 9 representatives from each guild compete against each other one-on-one. If one of the competitors wins a victory over an opponent or does not announce a replacement for another participant, then he can fight with the next opponent. As a result, the side that won over all opponents will win. Kang Hyun-jung wanted Kim Tae-min to go up against the Echo Guild's 9 together, claiming that if Tae-min managed to defeat at least 2 opponents, he would deal with the rest personally. Kang Hyun-jung also felt that the attack today was a failure for the Echo Guild because the guy managed to call the special police squad before Echo managed to hide the evidence. Kim Tae-min guessed that Kang Hyun-jung wanted to start a lawsuit based on this evidence, which would require the Echo Guild to hand over a large sum of money to the Ace Guild. However, if the amount is too large, Echo will not accept these conditions. In that case, the Ace Guild will declare a guild war on them. It was necessary to act right now. The next day, the children were playing in their room when Kim Tae-min brought them a gift. It contained many different toys. After that, the men asked the children where Kang Hyun-jung was now and then walked towards him. The Echo Guild, as expected, refused to pay compensation, so they can safely declare a guild war on them. Meanwhile, Choi Na-young, the head of the Echo Guild, was furious that the incident from last night had come to the attention of the police. He was also informed that the Ace Guild had declared a guild war on them. The assistant guild head Echo noted that the evidence was obvious, and therefore this outcome was obvious. He also said that most likely the Ace Guild is hoping for a mercenary who helped them in the last unofficial war. But Choi Na-young noticed that mercenaries were not allowed in the official tournament, but they immediately assumed that the guy had temporarily joined the guild, not realizing that he was now the head of the guild. In any case, Choi Na-young didn't see any problems. Moreover, the list of fighters was soon announced. Of these, there was only one B-rank person. All the others were ranked C. Choi Na-young, who had decided that victory was already in his pocket, decided that there was no need to mobilize their A-rank hunter. Instead, he decided to send B-rank fighters to fight, thinking that this would be enough. Rumors of a guild war spread even among the general populace. The 2 ordinary guys were discussing this event among themselves, not even realizing that they were currently being listened to by S-rank hunter Lee Jin-ah, the second daughter of the head of the jail corporation. She was also accompanied by Park Seo-kyun, an A-rank hunter, who noticed that Lee Jin was clearly interested in Kang Hyun-jung, even though he was trying to hide it. She stated that she wasn't interested in bronze-tier guilds, but noted that such a rapid increase in rank and getting the position of guild head was quite unusual. Park Seok-hyun told Lee Jin that Kang Hyun-jun became a C-rank hunter with a single rebirth bonus, and during the attack on the B-rank dungeon, he personally destroyed the entire group. This information surprised Lee Jin, and they speculated that Kang Hyun-jun might be a second awakened hunter, but the official hunter department didn't think so. Park Seok-hyun thought this was the perfect opportunity for their newly formed guild. But Lee Jin also suggested that their guesses might not be correct. They decided that it would be a good idea to wait for the guild war to see Kang Hyun-jung's abilities in person. They had a small head start due to the fact that the other guilds weren't paying enough attention to Kang Hyun-jung at the moment, but they weren't the only ones watching him, so they would have to act immediately after the guild war ended. After a while, 10 days had passed since the announcement of the guild war. That's exactly how long it's been since Kang Hyun-jung last met up with his past lives. He tried to train without their help, but he was well aware that if they didn't show up, he wouldn't be able to win the guild war. Every night he trained, hoping that his past life would come back to him, but no one came. He pleaded with them for help, but their pleas were not heeded. Kang Hyun-jun was reminiscing about his past. At school, he was always bullied, but Nuna never left him in trouble, each time helping him out of trouble. He was really happy when his awakening was confirmed, and he became an F-rank hunter. He believed that he would finally be able to repay his family's care and protect his loved ones. He believed that if he continued to train as hard as he could, he would definitely achieve it, but right now, he wasn't sure if he could achieve it without the help of his past lives. There were a lot of negative thoughts in his head. He recalled how he was always humiliated and belittled. He continued to train, but these thoughts wouldn't get out of his head. Soon, he cut the tree he was training on in half, then fell to the ground without strength, reaching out to the moon with his hand. He continued to think of himself as weak, because he couldn't progress just because his previous lives didn't appear, which made him think of himself as mediocre. Soon, Kang Hyun-jun returned home. This was heard by Nuna, who had fallen asleep again on the sofa. She noticed that every time Kang Hyun-jun came back later and later. As soon as Kang Hyun-jun reached the bed, he began to reproach himself for not making any progress again. As he fell back on the bed, he once again prayed that any of his past lives would help him. Kang Hyun-jun found himself in the ocean, sinking to the bottom. As soon as the guy woke up, he tried to swim up, but after 5 minutes of trying to swim out, he did not succeed. It was insanely deep. However, when he opened his mouth, he realized that he could breathe freely in this place. Thinking that this was a previous life's room, he searched everywhere for it, but there was no one around. But soon he found a bright light, and his body floated towards it. After that, Kang Hyun-jun woke up on his bed. Nuna had already met him there, reminding him that it was Sunday, which meant she didn't have a day job. She grabbed Kang Hyun-jun and carried him to the hallway, leading him to one of the rooms where the other shelter members were waiting for him, congratulating him on getting the F rank. Kang Hyun-jun guessed that these were his memories that he should never forget. Nuna noted that Kang Hyun-jun's awakening was much earlier than usual, but the guy denied it, saying that he hadn't even been issued a hunter's ID yet. Kang Hyun-jun knew that this was one of his most cherished memories, but soon he was underwater again. Now, near him was a huge shark-like monster, which, seeing the guy, immediately swallowed him. Kang Hyun-jun found himself in a new flashback, in which Nuna protected a guy from bandits who came to pick out debts from the shelter. Kang Hyun-jun clearly remembered this day as if it had only happened yesterday. The head of the bandits demanded to return their money, but the director asked to give them a little more time. In response to this, the men tried to hit the old woman, but Nuna defended her, exposing herself to the blow. The girl asked them to give them more time because she is a C-rank hunter, so she earns a lot of money. At this point, Kang Hyun-jun also decided to put in a word. He told the bandits that he was an F-rank hunter and would also try to pay off some of the debt, but this only amused the bandits. Their leader called Kang Hyun-jun trash and slapped him in the face with gusto, after which the bandits went to organize a mayhem in the shelter. As soon as they left, Nuna decided that it was all a little blood, just to clean up the mess they had made here. But Kang Hyun-jun didn't think so. He was desperate, calling himself completely useless. He thought that once he became a hunter, he would be able to protect his family, but when these people came to their shelter, there was nothing he could do. Kang Hyun-jun thought of himself as a helpless brat. Reliving that day, he realized that the helplessness of that day had kept him moving forward to this day, but now he decided that everything would be different. Right now, what drives Kang Hyun-jun isn't his past helplessness, but his strength and confidence in being able to protect everyone. Accepting this, the boy began to swim up and soon came face to face with Kasago. Kang Hyun-jun was incredibly happy to meet Kasago, but Kasago claimed that he made a mistake when he decided to give the guy strength. There were still memories of buying a house in his head, but he decided that it was a recent dream. Kang Hyun-jun admitted that he was overconfident because of the sudden appearance of power, but now he has an epiphany. Right now, because of the power he has gained, his family is in danger and he doesn't want to sit back and watch them suffer. Kang Hyun-jun wants to become stronger to protect them. Kasago liked that answer. He could see that the guy was really desperate. He asked the guy to get out his weapon, after which he agreed to teach him the martial art of defensive counterattack. Kang Hyun-jung initially didn't understand how this technique differs from a normal counterattack, but Kasago claimed that he would understand everything after testing this technique on himself. Kang Hyun-jung immediately charged into the fight, trying to stab Kasago, but Kasago blocked the blow, and Kang Hyun-jung's punch began to be absorbed. Now, Kasago could release this power back to Kang Hyun-jung, but in double the amount. Kasago also said that the only way to get this skill is to withstand the released attack. A huge stream of energy shot out in Kang Hyun-jung's direction. Kasago thought that the guy had failed, but soon all the dust settled down, and he saw Kang Hyun-jung standing on his feet, who had completely withstood the blow. Now this skill belonged to him. After a while, the day of the Guild War arrived. Apart from Kang Hyun-jun and Kim Taemin, all the Ace Guild members were in a terrible mood. Taemin tried to cheer everyone up by telling them that Kang Hyun-jung would lead them to victory, but when they realized that their only hope was a C, rank hunter, they became even more discouraged. At this moment, a native of the Echo clan entered their room, mocking the Ace Guild's fighting spirit. Kang Hyun-jung asked him to leave the room, but he said that although he was a member of the Echo Guild, he was also responsible for the organization of this guild war, so he decided to check the readiness of the Ace Guild. But Kang Hyun-jung still demanded to get out of the room. In response to this, the Echo Guild member conjured up a murderous aura around him, but Kang Hyun-jung completely suppressed it with a wave of his hand. After that, he awakened the Reaper's bloodlust. The guy from the Echo Guild felt as if he was in pitch darkness, and some sinister creature was suppressing him. In reality, his body was already on its knees. As soon as the guy regained his senses, he immediately ran out of the room. Such a picture struck all the fighters of the Ace Guild. They decided that they still had a chance to win. Soon, one of the employees came in, saying that it was time for them to move out. Upon entering the arena, Kang Hyun-jung was surprised by the number of spectators. Kim Taemin also claimed that this was due to the fact that the hunter community paid attention to Kang Hyun-jun. The guy's family was also in the stands. Soon, the commentator announced the start of the Guild War. Kim Taemin was the first to leave Ace Guild. Kang Hyun-jun reminded Tom that he only needed to defeat 2 fighters, and then Kang Hyun-jun would finish the rest of the work. Taemin, having learned this, was full of strength and motivation. The member from the Echo Guild was B-rank mage Seo Jin-soo. He called Taemin Kang Hyun-jung's human shield, and then the battle began. Taemin immediately took out his daggers, and in one quick movement, he was almost at the mage's side. The man threw a punch, but the mage managed to dodge and activated the shield, hoping that it would help. However, Taemin was already behind the mage, shooting him in the stomach as soon as he turned around. The mage immediately gave up. Taemin wanted to finish what he had started, but the judge immediately stopped him, and the man was very displeased. However, when he turns to Kang Hyun-jung, he looks very happy. The second round soon began. Taemin won again, but he looked pretty hurt. He turned to Kang Hyun-jung, then went back to his team. Kang Hyun-jun praised Taemin for doing exactly as they had planned, and then walked into the arena on his own. He immediately activated his aura, startling everyone present. Lee Jin and Park Seo-kyun also watched the battle. As soon as the battle started, Kang Hyun-jung finished off the opponent with a single blow. Then the next battle began, which ended exactly the same way. The moment of the decisive battle has arrived. If Kang Hyun-jung defeats the last hunter of the Echo Guild, then the Ace Guild will win this war. Soon, Han Sang-hyun entered the arena, and the fight began. Han Sang-hyun immediately tried to throw a punch, but Kang Hyun-jung disappeared. As it turned out, he had jumped up and was already leaning with one hand on his opponent's shoulder. He tried to end the fight with a shield kick, but the man managed to block the blow in time. In that case, Kang Hyun-jung used the Karsag counterattack technique, summoning multiple spears that all flew at Han Sang-hyun at once. After that, he gave up. Kang Hyun-jung won this fight, and with it, the Guild War. The crowd cheered as the head of the Echo Guild smashed the table and headed for the exit. Kang Hyun-jun walked towards his team. As soon as Kang Hyun-jung entered the room, he was immediately greeted by Taemin, who had already been completely cured. They were also soon joined by other Ace Guild members. They all congratulated Kang Hyun-jung on his crushing victory and showered him with various praises, and some even asked him to teach them the techniques he used. However, Taemin immediately shooed them all away, allowing Kang Hyun-jung to rest in silence. After a while, Taemin revealed that he uploaded Kang Hyun-jung's battle on Tube, a video hosting service often used by hunters. The guy was sure that soon there will be a lot of views on it. Their conversation was interrupted by Park Seo-kyun's arrival. Taemin was immediately wary, but he just laughed and gave him some candy, assuring him that there was no need to worry about anything. Soon Lee Jin also joined them. Kang Hyun-jun, seeing that she was S-ranked, knew that if it came to a fight, it would be very difficult for them. However, the girl didn't come here for battle at all. The girl introduced herself to the guy, and he immediately recognized her. She was the daughter of the head of the Jail Corporation, the second-ranked company in Korean business circles. After shaking hands, Lee Jail revealed that they had come here to invite Kang Hyun-jong to join their new guild, where they would immediately take a leadership position. Taemin immediately tensed up, knowing that if Kang Hyun-jong agreed, the Ace Guild that had just gotten back on its feet wouldn't be able to withstand such a blow. However, the past life of a guy named Romanov intervened and demanded that he not accept the offer, otherwise Kang Hyun-jong would be left without his support. Deciding that the support of his past life was more important than Lee Jin's offer, he declined, saying that he didn't like being led by anyone. This answer startled Taemin, but Park Seo-kyan was furious. However, Kang Hyun-jong suggested that they change the contract and make him the head of the guild. In that case, he would gladly accept their offer. Lee Jin replied that he thought too highly of himself. After that, Taemin interjected, not allowing the girl to insult Kang Hyun-jong. The guy himself replied that although it really doesn't cost that much right now, it will change soon. After that, he and Taemin headed for the exit. Lee Jin laughed and noted that Kang Hyun-jun was confident in his abilities. She decided that she would watch him. As they headed home, Park Seo-kyan asked if Lee Jin was okay, because after all, their plan had failed. However, she wasn't worried about it at all. She decided that she would definitely make Kang Hyun-jong regret his choice. Kang Hyun-jun was completely exhausted from the paperwork. A lot of organizations from the Silver Layer wanted to get a guy for themselves, but he refused them all. He asked Taemin if there had been any messages from the Jail Corporation, but they still hadn't contacted him. Kang Hyun-jong admitted that he is not going to become the head of their guild, but is ready to accept any unofficial sponsorship. Taemin fully supported this strategy, because if they were to carry out S-rank raids, the reward would be much higher with the support of the Jail Corporation. He also added that it won't take long. If the dungeon administration changes the rank, even Lee Jin will change his mind. However, Kang Hyun-jong didn't see the point of changing his rank. But Taemin explained that the reason gold or platinum guilds don't take any action is because the official rank of a guild leader is C, and even with all the external image, there are very few cases where a hunter with a lower rank than themselves is hired as a leader or guild leader. Kang Hyun-jong's thoughts were confirmed. He wasn't strong enough. Taemin also said that the video on Chew received a lot of good reviews, and therefore, according to the man's forecasts, the administration will contact the research institute within today, and if they react quickly, they can get in touch within the next hour. Soon, Taemin's phone rang and he went out into the hallway, but when Taemin came back, he looked very excited. A visitor arrived that Kang Hyun-jong was supposed to meet. It was a representative of the Diamond Layer, of which there are only 15 in all of Korea. Kang Hyun-jong was surprised by this statement and agreed to meet with him. Lim Dong-kyuk, the HR manager of Innovation Company, was waiting for Kang Hyun-jun in another room, sipping tea. As soon as the guy entered, they shook hands and got down to business. He called Kang Hyun-jong a super rookie, explaining that in high-ranking guilds, the guy has such a nickname. Also, if someone represents a guild that is very interested in discovering new talents, they will definitely come across Kang Hyun-jong's video. He couldn't believe it was so big, but he also knew that once the merger with Echo took place, the number of guild members would increase dramatically, and as a result, Kang Hyun-jong would become even more famous. After this little conversation, Kang Hyun-jong took out a document that spelled out all the conditions that their company Innovation offers, and if Kang Hyun-jong signs this paper, then he can immediately take a senior position in their guild. It was a very tempting offer, but he didn't want to lose Romanov's patronage, so he turned it down, which again made Taemin very happy. Kang Hyun-jun said that it was very difficult to get such a chance, but Kang Hyun-jun knew this very well, but he was not going to change his mind. In the late afternoon, Kang Hyun-jong finally finished his work, and then he was immediately called back to his past life. It was immediately clear to the boy that it was Romanov. When he entered his chambers, he found many jewels and gold coins. Romanov beckoned the guy closer, but as soon as he got too close, he immediately felt an incredible heaviness all over his body. Romanov immediately relieved the guy of the pain, and then in one quick movement, he was at Kang Hyun-jong's side. He said that when Kasego first chose the guy, many of the past lives were against it, but soon Seiden Miller and Kasashin recognized it. Romanov could not have imagined that Kang Hyun-jong would be able to absorb their knowledge so quickly, even though he lost his way a little at one point, but in the end, he still achieved what he wanted thanks to his abilities. Therefore, Romanov became interested in the guy. That is why he demanded that the guy refuse guilds, because someone who is under the protection of Romanov cannot be someone's servant. He asked the guy to swear that he would never serve anyone, and in this case, he would become their patron. The video on Chew received a lot of good reviews, and therefore, according to the man's forecasts, the administration will contact the research institute within today, and if they react quickly, they can get in touch within the next hour. Soon, Taemin's phone rang, and he went out into the hallway, but when Taemin came back, he looked very excited. A visitor arrived that Kang Hyun-jong was supposed to meet. It was a representative of the Diamond Layer, of which there are only 15 in all of Korea. Kang Hyun-jong was surprised by this statement and agreed to meet with him. Lim Dong-kyuk, the HR manager of Innovation Company, was waiting for Kang Hyun-jun in another room, sipping tea. As soon as the guy entered, they shook hands and got down to business. He called Kang Hyun-jung a super rookie, explaining that in high-ranking guilds, the guy has such a nickname. Also, if someone represents a guild that is very interested in discovering new talents, they will definitely come across Kang Hyun-jung's video. He couldn't believe it was so big, but he also knew that once the merger with Echo took place, the number of guild members would increase dramatically, and as a result, Kang Hyun-jung would become even more famous. After this little conversation, Kang Hyun-jung took out a document that spelled out all the conditions that their company Innovation offers, and if Kang Hyun-jung signs this paper, then he can immediately take a senior position in their guild. It was a very tempting offer, but he didn't want to lose Romanov's patronage, so he turned it down, which again made Taemin very happy. Kang Hyun-jun said that it was very difficult to get such a chance, but Kang Hyun-jun knew this very well, but he was not going to change his mind. In the late afternoon, Kang Hyun-jun finally finished his work, and then he was immediately called back to his past life. It was immediately clear to the boy that it was Romanov. When he entered his chambers, he found many jewels and gold coins. Romanov beckoned the guy closer, but as soon as he got too close, he immediately felt an incredible heaviness all over his body. Romanov immediately relieved the guy of the pain, and then in one quick movement, he was at Kang Hyun-jung's side. He said that when Kasego first chose the guy, many of the past lives were against it, but soon Saiden Miller and Kasashin recognized it. Romanov could not have imagined that Kang Hyun-jung would be able to absorb their knowledge so quickly, even though he lost his way a little at one point, but in the end, he still achieved what he wanted thanks to his abilities. Therefore, Romanov became interested in the guy. That is why he demanded that the guy refuse guilds, because someone who is under the protection of Romanov cannot be someone's servant. He asked the guy to swear that he would never serve anyone, and in this case, he would become their patron. In the end, he agreed to become a patron, as promised. Romanov put a hand on his shoulder and said that even if it hurts, you need to endure. Kang felt such pain, as if his entire body had been pierced through. Kang fell to the floor, exhausted. He said that this pain was very different from the pain he had experienced before. Romanov ordered Khan to clear his mind in order to use his magic power. Kang Hyun-jun knew that he needed to focus. At this moment, a large golden shard appeared in front of him. Without realizing what it was, he touched it. He was in a very strange place. Everything was on fire, people were shouting, and there was some kind of battle going on. He saw the knights defending the imperial palace with their lives. Kang felt a huge rhinestone and suddenly woke up again in front of Romanov. But Kang still hadn't figured out how to use his patronage. Romanov laughed and said that Khan's mind would take him to a completely different place. He started explaining that the way to activate its support is quite simple. Once the magic in your eyes focuses on a certain person, it's all over. After that, Kang will be able to see the person's true name. In other words, a different name that reflects the true nature of this person. With this support, Khan will be able to identify people who are worth keeping close to him. Hearing this, Kang Hyun-jun started thanking Romanov. In the end, he said that as long as Kang served him, he would always be on his side. But being able to learn a true name can be a curse in some ways. The next morning, Kang went down to see his sister. He wanted to test Romanov's defense on his sister. And at that moment, a true name appeared above her head, loyal assistant. Kang was so surprised that Nuna thought there was something on her face. After that, he sat down next to her on the couch and started talking about his plans for the day. Suddenly, the guy decided to thank Nuna for taking on the duties of a secretary and for always being there for her. Deep down, she was very glad that she was able to do something to help. But Nuna said she wanted to do it because she wanted to, and she would only help him for a while, and then she would leave right away. After a while, both the other guild representatives were sitting at the round table. They couldn't believe that their guild would get even bigger soon. Kang came up with the idea to check the true name of the special unit commander. An inscription appeared above his head, blindly believing knight. Kang didn't understand. He got in the car and drove to his office. A representative of the second team of the Dungeon Administration's Hunter Division entered the office. He came to see Kang to discuss the issue of raising his rank, but that wasn't the only reason they'd met. He claimed to have a lucrative offer for Khan. Kang was very happy, but asked for an ID card. When Kang opened it, he saw his new rank A. Suddenly, a representative told the guy that they wanted Kang to become a national hunter. Kang was shocked by the suggestion. He went on to explain representatively that if Kang agreed, he would be able to work not only in the Dungeon Administration, but also in other national organizations. The representative had no idea how to persuade Khan with such conditions on hand. When Kang Hyun-jun immediately realized that these are very low standards for hiring, the commander decided to help Khan deal with the contract. When he started reading it, he was furious and called the contract absurd. He did not understand where it was seen that working conditions corresponding to rank B were offered to a hunter of rank A. The commander began to tell about yesterday's visit of the HR manager of the Innovation Company. When the guy heard this, he immediately apologized to Kang Hyun-jun because he didn't have the confidence that he would be able to provide more favorable terms than these. In fact, from the moment he watched Kang Hyun-jun's video, the thought has already occurred to him that he won't be able to hire him from Nim. The guy added that the current Dungeon Management Administration wasn't good enough to accept Hunter Khan. He wanted to leave Kang's office quickly because he was too embarrassed to say all this. There wasn't much time left before the takeover and merger. In Noona's opinion, everything will be settled in just 1 week. Kang and Noona decided to have a cup of coffee. At that moment, the commander ran up to Kang and said that he had an urgent message. In the process of accepting and organizing the documents of the Echo Executive Department, they confirmed the existence of Guild Leader Choi Na-young's secret funds. He brought a set of ordered documents that would be simplified when Kang confirmed it. When Kang Hyun-jun found out about the approximate amount, he realized that with this money, he would start a small guild. After a while, Jonso, a B rank combat hunter, showed up to investigate. The leadership of the Echo Guild has been completely disbanded, and now the target only has a handful of bodyguards. Everything is done for the sake of the guild head. It will be enough if they only get their hands dirty. The commander didn't want Kang Hyun-jun to deal with such matters. On a rainy day, in one of the alleys, a guy was on his knees and begged for mercy. But it was useless to beg. He shouted that he could give both money and secret funds just to get out of there. The commander knew that if he let him live, he would be able to say with 100% certainty that this guy would stick a knife in his back. Without thinking twice, he finally killed this guy. The Echo Guild was finished. They decided to get rid of all the evidence and return to their normal duties. After some time, the commander received a notification from the General Office of Guilds about the completion of the merger and acquisition process. From this day on, the Echo Guild officially ceases to exist. Although this is good news, the guild members have started resigning all over the place. Kang thought that they were not to the liking of all the members of the Echo Guild. The commander confirmed these words. From the General Office of Guilds reported that the number of layoffs is growing. They knew that at least more than half of them would leave. At that moment, Kang Hyun-jun realized that their guild really wasn't that huge. Kang wondered if the members of the main Dungeon Invader team would leave. The commander said that most likely it will be so. Unlike normal guild members, most of the invaders would immediately abandon them. Kang said that even in order to attack the dungeon, you need to prevent such personnel from leaving. He ordered to update the contracts a little for this purpose. There weren't many ranker hunters in the Echo Guild. The number of attacking teams and regular guild members is small, and the size of the executive office is several times larger. Khan had the idea that Echo had probably been raised to do the shady work of a backstage customer. Backhand Soo walked up to the guild leader's office. After seeing him, Kang Hyun-jun decided to check out his true name. A sign appeared above the guy's head, Commander of the Vanguard of Desperate Great Deeds. They sat Puck down in a chair and decided to get straight to the point. Buck agreed because there was no point in wasting his time. Kang suggested that Backhand Soo stay in the guild, but what Buck didn't understand was, what would be the benefit for him? The guy added that he signed a contract with Echo and not with Ace. Deep knowledge of the absolute Emperor Romanov helps analytics. Kang immediately realized that if Buck deigned to come here, then he definitely wanted something, and Kang offered to raise the contract condition. But for Pack, it didn't seem like that was enough either. If there is no unreasonable request, then the Ace Guild will try to write it as fully as possible in the contract. Buck stated that he wanted to go to the dungeon rank. After listening to all this, Kang was forced to refuse Pack. When Buck heard the refusal, he got angry and slammed his foot down on the table. He cursed them and called them little cowards. But when the guy calmed down, he decided to explain everything to Khan. He can't stop with who he is right now. Pack must attack stronger dungeons, thereby provoking further growth. Kang realized that this was a guild that took care of its rear. However, with Ace's current capabilities, attacking an S-rank dungeon is impossible. Buck revealed that Kang's punch was so strong that he couldn't even follow it. It was a flawless attack, and he was finally convinced that Kang was indeed an awakened hunter. Kang gave his word to Paik that if he stayed in the guild, Kang would keep his position as head of the guild. Buck agreed to sign it. A few months later, Kang was sitting in his office, talking to the commander. The commander reported that approximately half of the members of the Echo Guild had signed contracts and remained in the Ace Guild. Those who left turned out to be many times less than Khan had expected. According to the commander, this was due to the fact that the head of the guild became a hunter of rank A. Starting from rank A, people see hunters as the main strength of the nation. Since Kang was promoted to a rank in a short time, people started to look forward to the new guild coming. The size of Choi Na-yeon's secret fund turned out to be bigger than they thought, which is why they decided to include ads. Some time ago, the commander requested data from the executive department that would be used to promote the guild. It turned out that the previous stats couldn't be used due to mergers and acquisitions, which was why the Guild Invader team would have to reorganize soon. The commander began to explain that the guild's performance was mostly measured by the guild invader team's dungeon clearing or raid protection score. And now, an effective way to increase productivity right now is to simply raid a dungeon for one guild member. Not knowing how long it would take, Kang realized that he needed to start reorganizing as soon as possible. A few hours later, the commander entered the office and informed Kang that a reorganized team of invaders was to attack the dungeon in Ranga. We can move out now. The second team has a lot of newcomers, so it does not reach the elite level. Kang thought that as a test, he could start with B rank. Kang also thought that it would be better to activate the second command first, and then combine it with the first one. This is because the first team can start acting right now. As for attacking B rank dungeons, just one A rank hunter is enough. Kang asked Bai Kan to stay in the office and start planning the organization of the third team. The size of the guild has grown. In their opinion, it would be nice to have at least 3 attacking teams. After that, it was decided to slowly move forward. Kang was warned that the second team was already waiting for him before entering the dungeon. When Kang Hyun-jun walked out of the office building, a taxi was already parked in front of him. Before he could get in the car, he saw his sister Nuna. Kang Hyun-jun immediately realized that something was wrong with the girl and immediately started asking her about what had happened. But the girl only asked Kon to take her with him. She understood that in order to be more useful to Hyun-jun in the future, she needed to go to the dungeon and grow even more. She called out loudly that she also wanted to help. Kang turned to the commander and asked, wouldn't it be okay if another expert hunter went with them? The commander replied with a smile that if they added one more person, it wouldn't cause any problems. Kang and Nuna got into the car and drove to their destination. People were already standing in front of the entrance to the B-rank dungeon. The leader of the Ace Guild's second invader team, Choi In-ho, approached Kang and introduced him. He introduced himself as the leader of the second invader team, consisting of those who had moved from Echo to Ace Guild. Kang replied with a smile that he was counting on this guy, but he still decided to check his true name and saw the inscription above it, Diligent Guardian. Kang immediately warned Choi In-ho that they would have a new addition in the form of another person. It was decided to proceed with the capture. The Ace Guild was descending into the dungeon. One of the participants gave an order to launch drones. After that, they decided to move on. Kang Hyun-jun suddenly stopped because he heard a sound and realized that someone was approaching from that direction. They knew there were orcs here. 5 berserkers and the same number of orcs. The guild decided to advance. One of the participants activated the fire bombardment. Khan noticed one of the orcs moving toward him. Khan realized that he needed to deal with them as quickly as possible because prolonged fights are dangerous. The fight started, and after a while, Kang Hyun-jun delivered his final blow. He managed to defeat the orc. The battle was so fast that no one in the guild had time to squeeze in. It was as if something had brushed past the guild members. One guy noticed that Kang was on a completely different level. The guild master gave the order to move on. They've done a good job so far. Kang Hyun-jun said that if they continued like this, they would definitely be able to capture the dungeon without any difficulty. Kang said they all needed a little rest. Everyone was a little tired. At this moment, the dungeon door suddenly closed. Kang had been through a similar situation before. Choi In-ho said that he thought it was a hidden dungeon. Kang didn't even know if they had a lot of experience capturing dungeons. He began to reassure his participants and said that everything was fine. He then explained that they must understand the current situation in order to be able to attack. The Bloodhounds from the administration reported that it was a B-rank dungeon, but Khan thought it was at least A rank. He decided that now he could breathe a sigh of relief. An A-rank dungeon might sound a little scary, but the guild realized that they should try to capture it. With A rank, the difficulty of the attack increases dramatically. Kang knew that if they were unlucky, they might run into S-rank dungeon. Kang Hyun-jun suggested that we reorganize. Choi In-ho agreed with the guild leader. He said that in order to clear it, they needed to fight the boss in the best condition. All the guild members were standing in front of the dungeon doors. Kang turned to Nuna and said that in about 30 minutes they would invade the boss room. He told her to stay close to Choi In-ho because he knew that the guild was in a hidden dungeon. Kang Hyun-jun knew that Noon would be much safer with Choi In-ho than with him standing in the front. Nuna clearly didn't like her brother's words. He took her hand and began to explain that she was a healer and a healer must stay alive until the very end. But Nuna was confident that she would be useful to Kang Hyun-jun this time. The guild leader asked everyone to gather and continue the takeover. He then ordered everyone to be extremely careful as they entered. When the doors opened, there was a strange laugh. Hae Shin's insidious laugh warns of an ambush. The hidden blade is aimed at your heart. When they went inside, they saw many glittering eyes. It was the orcs who were attacking the guild again. Choi In-ho gave the order of magic circle. The next spell was Yawning Wind. In conclusion, a wall of flame was summoned. When the guild managed to defeat the orcs, a man came out of the crowd to join them. He was very oddly dressed and had large fangs, as if he was wearing a mask. Choi In-ho immediately told Kang that the man was a warlord. In Kang Hyun-jun's opinion, this man was the boss of the secret dungeon. Kasago's shield of justice will protect him as long as it protects him. Nothing can threaten him. Sword patron Sidon Miller is with them. The sword cannot be broken until their righteous wrath is crushed. Kang Hyun-jun realized that he needed to start trying. When Kang ran at the boss with his sword, the boss immediately disappeared. Kang Hyun-jun didn't know where the secret dungeon boss had gone. Just then, a man appeared behind Kang and tried to sneak a punch. But Khan noticed him. During the battle, he thought that this boss was moving quite fast for such a stupid monster. However, the monster is still much slower than Kang Hyun-jun. Kasago counterattacks. The unshakable shield transforms into a sharp spear that will crush their enemies. Kang did his best to defeat the boss of the secret dungeon. He threw it back against the wall and began to celebrate his victory. But suddenly the boss woke up and with renewed strength went to Kenna. He threw a few punches at Khan. Kang Hyun-jun was completely confused. It was the first time he had encountered such an attack. The boss was moving towards Khan with a sword in his hands and saying that this person should die. He kicked off the ground with all his strength and hung directly over Kang Hyun-jun's head. At that moment, Kang realized that it seemed to be over. He got to his feet and was ready to defend himself. Kang thought that he needed to deal with this freak quickly. He knew that if he continued like this, everyone would suffer. It seemed that Kang no longer had a chance, but suddenly, Kang managed to open up. With his power, he was able to crush the boss of the secret dungeon. Everyone around them was in shock at what they saw. Choi In-ho told the boy that he had nothing to worry about. He promised that they would take care of the rest themselves. Kang Hyun-jun thanked them for their good work. He was thinking about a monster that could talk. He suspected that the area was full of varieties of these creatures, but in any case, in his eyes, it was amazing. The guild members were already very tired and hungry. At that moment, the doors opened and everyone realized that there must be a way out. There was a bright light coming from the door. Everyone noticed a huge sharp sword breaking through the light. He was moving so fast that no one in the guild had time to react quickly. The sword hit one of the guild members, Han So-jin. Nuna immediately rushed to heal the girl. Kang knew that this wound was fatal. Nuna's healing abilities can keep her alive for a short time. Hasashin warned Khan of the danger. Someone is hiding inside you to strike you in the heart. The attack was so fast that Kang Hyun-jun didn't even notice. He couldn't sense anyone's presence. He knew it might be a trap. Khan gave orders to look around because they do not know where the opponents will attack from. At that moment, an orc swordmaster came to them. When the orc swordmaster stepped inside, his eyes were filled with anger and rage. He immediately pounced on Kang Hyun-jun. As he lay exhausted on the floor, he started telling his guild to run away immediately because this was an S-rank monster. Until that monster came, Kang was sure it was over. Nuna noticed her brother who had been hit by an S-rank monster. She rushed to save her brother, but the monster was ahead of her and stood between them. The monster threw the girl back a few meters. All the guild members ran up to the enraged monster. Kang said that the others should leave, at which time he would try to detain him. The injured guy grabbed Nuna in his arms, trying to save the girl. He told Nuna not to worry about her injuries, because now wasn't the right time to think about it. The monster noticed a wounded guy with a girl in his arms trying to escape from him. Without thinking twice, he threw his sword, which caused 2 guild members to fall. At that moment, Nuna thought that she was completely useless. Kang watched the orc swordmaster's fighting technique for a long time. He noticed that this orc intentionally didn't hit vital points. He leaves them injured that Kang Hyun-jun was distracted by them. Suddenly, a voice called out to Nuna to heal him. Nuna pleaded with her wounded comrades to hold on a little longer. Kang realized that if things continued like this, he would have to get rid of this orc sooner and take care of his sister. Without thinking twice, the guild leader decided to chase the terrible monster away from his sister first. He was engaged in a battle. During the battle, the orc swordmaster told Khan that he moved like a dirty rat. Khan was trying to beat him. But the monster lifted Khan high from polo and touched his head. The guy again experienced hellish pain. He understood that this monster was absorbing his strength. If Kang doesn't finish off the orc, it's scary to imagine what will happen to Seo-jin Nuna. First, the guide urgently needed to escape from the clutches of the monster. At one point in the battle, he realized that things were bad. The orc swordmaster noticed that Kang Hyun-jun had mastered special swordsmanship techniques that even high-ranking swordsmen didn't know about. He asked if Kang was a swordmaster's disciple, but Kang didn't know if he needed to answer such questions. The battle continued. Kang was losing more and more strength. Suddenly, Nuna touched Kang to heal him. The healing saved the boy, and he thanked Nuna. Everyone knew that the mana was depleted. It was already at its limit. Nuna said that she would save her brother in any way. She was so weak that scarlet blood was flowing out of her mouth. Kang Hyun-jun begged for the orc swordmaster to die, but the monster was clearly better at overpowering humans. Nuna ran to her brother's side. She was trying to heal him. She knew that her brother had lost too much blood, and she was afraid to imagine what would happen if things continued like this. She begged for her healing to work. Nguyen couldn't understand how mana could run out at such an important moment. She didn't understand why this was happening to her. Nuna started crying when she realized that there was absolutely nothing she could do while Hyun-jung was suffering like this. The orc walked over to Khan and lifted him up by the scruff of his neck. At this moment, Nuna's concern for her brother was at its limit. Her entire life spun before her eyes. The girl remembered how she and her brother were sitting on the floor by the window. She remembered how she hadn't been able to say anything to her brother that day. Nuna began to blame herself. After all, she knew that at that moment, Kang needed her support more than ever. However, she was never able to give him any words of comfort. After a long, desperate search, she finally found and saw her brother Kang Hyun-jun. She knew that Kang didn't think about that day and kept moving forward. But that didn't mean she would stand idly by, because that wasn't what family members did. She thought about it at the time when she decided that she would be strong. Nuna recalled how Kang kept telling her that the day would soon come when he would be able to protect her. Remembering all this, Nuna realized that she would die for it. At this moment, a strange power enveloped Nuna. A voice appeared that said that Nuna had sacrificed herself for a dear person. The absolute emperor of novels forcibly passes the paladin trial with the highest imperial relish. Initially, Nuna thought she was having auditory hallucinations. The voice continued to speak. He explained that Nuna received the noble paladin essence. He ordered her to use the sword to protect her loved ones. At that moment, Nuna saw her mana begin to replenish. The girl realized that if she got this power, then she must protect her brother at all costs. Raising his hand up, rays of bright light began to come out of it. Choi In-ho lay on the floor and knew that a second awakening was taking place. Rays of light gathered in a huge burning ball, and this ball was able to illuminate the entire dungeon with light. Kang woke up from the bright light and saw his sister Nuna. She stood in battle with the orc and was not afraid of anything. The girl directed the light beams at the orc, activating the holy spear. Khan knew he needed to get up. At that moment, the Reaper's bloodthirsty essence was awakened. Part of his killing intent had been released. Kang found the strength to grab his sword and run at the huge orc. During the battle, Kang turned to his sister. She was surprised when her mana began to fill up and overflow. Kang said it was like waking up. He left the healing to Nuna. Nuna did put her hand on her brother and spoke the words of healing. But the orc said that all their efforts were useless. Then he called Nuna and Kang pathetic people. Khan told the orc to close its mouth and finally die. Kang hit the orc, and it hit the floor so hard that it managed to make a big hole in the floor. Nuna didn't understand how this monster was still alive. Nuna activated her holy spear again, and they managed to win. After the battle, Nuna immediately started asking her brother about his health. Khan said that he was fine, and that Nuna needed to heal the other guild members right now. And at that moment, Nuna finally realized that she could also be useful. After healing, all the guild members were still alive. Choi In-ho didn't understand how the two of them managed to defeat an S-rank monster. He realized that this was not the time to sit idly by. Choi In-ho suddenly turned to the guild leader. He just wanted to ask about Kang's well-being. Kang wondered what was going on with the other members right now. One of them started hugging the guy and saying that thanks to him, they were all able to return from the dead. At that moment, Choi In-ho started crying because he realized that everyone was calling it a miracle. Nuna and Kang immediately realized that his behavior was caused by fatigue and mental exhaustion. Suddenly, the gate opened and everyone saw a large amount of light that intertwined into a funnel. Everyone was very happy because they realized that they would soon return home. Some people only thought about food. One participant said that as soon as he got home, he would eat 3 bowls of rice. All the guild members came out of the dungeon. The commander had been waiting for them all this time. When Kang and Nuna came out of the gate, the commander immediately rushed towards them. He was very scared because Choi In-ho told him everything. He was very angry and said that those damn bureaucrats were able to misjudge the dungeon. But Kang Hyun-jun tried to calm him down. He repeated several times that they were fine. Khan wondered where the rest of the guild members were now. The commander said that they were taken to the hospital. He tried to persuade Nuna and Kang to get tested just in case. The siblings were very exhausted. Kang said he would rather rest in his bed than go to the hospital. The commander agreed with them and offered to guide them to the car. At the end, he added that he would take care of the rest together with Choi In-ho. When Nuna and Kang got into the car, the commander wished them a good rest and said that he would give him a full report tomorrow. When Kang got home, he immediately went to bed. In the morning, he woke up and realized that it was utter chaos. He realized that now there was only one place left for him to go. He opened the door and suddenly found himself standing next to Romanov's throne. Romanov said that he thought that Kang was controlling him because he felt his mana throughout the fight. He said that forces were already beating inside that dungeon, but Romanov just intervened a little. All this was done in order to help his subject reach his potential. Upon hearing this, Kang shouted out that Seojin Nuna wasn't his subject. Romanov said that most likely his forces and defense perceived him as a subject of Khan. Kang couldn't understand the reason why this was done, since he hadn't asked anyone to do it. But Romanov said Khan would know about it when the time came. He was wondering if there were any other subjects besides Seojin Nuna. It turned out that there really are such subjects, but Romanov can't name them. Kang hadn't expected him to do anything else. Romanov said that he could name the number of these subjects. So far, apart from the paladin, there is only one. He said that Kang should not be upset, because in time there will be more of them, and then he will be able to establish a monarchy. Romanov thought that the guild head had already obtained the subject with special loyalty. Kang immediately knew who he was talking about. Sir Kim Taemin's true name was Blindly Believing Knight. That evening, it was night on the streets of the city. A car pulled up in front of the Dungeon Administration office. It was the head of the 4th team of the Dungeon Management Investigation Bureau, Lee Jin-hai. He questioned his assistant to find out if he had processed the data. He was wondering who had cleared the dungeon. He couldn't understand how just one A-rank hunter on the entire team could clear the dungeon. He couldn't believe the accuracy of this data. He said that if it turns out to be true, they will have big questions. The head of the Bureau of Investigation's 3rd management team approached them. He also wanted to get all the data related to this dungeon. He said that these materials are necessary for the Bureau. The man turned to the guild head and asked how Han Seojin was doing. He told her that she would need some time to recover her strength. However, after a little rest, she will be fine. She must be exhausted from the sudden burst of energy. It's confusing at first. That's why it won't be easy for her to understand where the power came from and to put her thoughts in order. The girl lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Then the man asked what about the manager himself, if he had any news. The man didn't say anything. It looked like something had happened. I thought that was true, but I thought that he was learning on the fly. He handed him the folder and told him to read it. It contained the results of the investigation that had arrived that morning. It is considered a subclass of an S-rank dungeon. The man read the report and asked if it was true. Did the Bureau really know about the existence of the hidden dungeon? He replied that yes, he had seen it in practice, and that meant it's exactly as they thought. There can be nothing other than that someone deliberately falsified the results of the preliminary investigation. The guy asked who dared to do such a thing. The man told him that he still did not have a final conclusion, but it was obvious that this was the work of the sponsors of the former Echo Guild. He would never have thought it if he hadn't personally contacted the Bureau, so he still doesn't know what to do. The guild leader sat down and exhaled heavily. He said that first, with the money they received from the secret funds, they would strengthen the power of the executive and intelligence departments, so they should do it as soon as possible. They must be prepared when their enemies decide to attack. The man agreed and said that he would start right now. The guy asked the supervisor to stop, asked how much he knew about hidden dungeons. Isn't this a dungeon where you can get hidden rewards? Well, you can count it as a reward. The leader asked him to stop since he was asking him this question, but the guild leader interrupted him and continued. He asked if it was possible that he received a hidden reward, rare materials, or rare equipment. The guy came up to him and said that Seojin Nuna got a second awakening, and the man thought he was too close. He took his hand away from his face and sat up, thinking that he was in déjà vu, and the man sighed in frustration. The supervisor said that he thinks that security at his home should also be strengthened. He can become a target as soon as rumors spread that he received a special reward from a hidden dungeon. That's right, it might encourage other guilds that have their eyes on the bounty to attack them. He replied that he would hire trusted armed guards. In addition, he will place the main hunters of the executive branch of the guild around his house. The guy asked again, not even from the hunters, to which the man replied that yes, he was still thinking of assigning him a bodyguard. He was one of the people he trusted. Suddenly, an unknown person came into the office. He told the head of the guild that he would introduce himself right away. You have found Romanov's eyes. A look of absolute insight that reveals the essence of all living things. A sliding shadow. The man said that he was Jungso, the head of the Ace Guild's intelligence department. The guy thought that it was true. This person is exactly the one who moves without making any sounds and leaving no traces. No wonder his true name includes the word shadow. The supervisor said that he will now be responsible for the security of his home. He is a B-rank hunter, so he can rely on him. The man said he wouldn't disappoint him. The leader turned to the guild head, said that since there was news about clearing the hidden dungeon, they would not be able to avoid battles. They are still considered the weak link. The guild leader said that he didn't need to worry. As long as he was determined, it wouldn't be easy to defeat him. Once they start attacking, they'll show them what they're worth, and at the same time punish them, showing the whole country how strong they are. Soon he would see that in the future, no one would be able to stand up to them. The unknown man was sitting on the sofa at the table. He said that clearly, as he was told, the Ace Guild had cleared an S-class dungeon. He was told that it was true. They had an informant in the dungeon administration, but even high-rank hunters had a hard time clearing S-rank dungeons. Judging from the rank of their group, they should be wiped out, but not a single one died. Were they all able to survive? The man replied to the chairman that this is so. There are only a few assumptions. Either Kang Hyun-jong was stronger than expected, or one of the party members had a second awakening inside the dungeon, or some other possibility that they don't know about. In any case, this is a threat. They must destroy them before they become stronger. The other person asked him that if they started acting on their own initiative, would the Osun group be left out? The chairman said they didn't have to do it on their own. The man replied that they would just inform the others, they just needed to spread the rumor that the Ace Guild had found something in the dungeon. The guild leader got out of the car. He turned to the manager and asked if he hadn't sensed his presence when he was training. The man was studying in a clearing when the guild leader abruptly approached him and startled him. He replied that yes, he had noticed the moment he heard his voice. The guy said that everything was fine, thought that it should be so because he had trained his stealth for a long time. The supervisor asked if he had lost his shield in the previous battle. The guy said yes, he had turned to dust. The man said that this equipment is not so high class, but he chose it with all his heart. He handed the guy a large bag with a colorful package with a bow. The guild leader thought about how to carry such a package. He is grateful, but these decorations, the guy said he'd think about it. He saw a new uniformed man, assumed they were new recruits. The manager replied that it was true. About 10 security guards were hired from closed military units. 9 people are hunters from E rank to D rank. 1 is a C rank hunter. Their rank may be low, but the hunters are much better than regular guards. They are all armed with firearms, and it is advisable for hunters of D rank and lower to carry them. The guy replied that this was true. It was unlikely that the one who decided to attack would have a magical skin like a beast. The magic skin is a thin, colorless shield that provides reliable protection against ordinary weapons. The guy said that, however, they don't know when and where the hunters will attack, so they need to be alert. The supervisor replied that he would do his best to protect him. He and Jung Seo would be joining the guards today, so they needed to be calm. The guy was at the door, and it was written on it that the shadow was behind him. So this is Hasashin. He thought what a joy it would be, especially now, if he was suddenly attacked. He entered the portal. Someone told him to pass. He was waiting for him. It looked like a hidden enemy was targeting him. The guy replied that this is true, but measures are being taken. It's such a headache. Hasashin said that his blessing, which he discovered now, will not be enough to determine the potential danger. The guy said that was why he needed it. A new blessing from him. He agreed, said that he liked his attitude. It seems that he trained a lot while he was under his leadership. As a result, their compatibility has greatly increased. The guy asked what blessing he would get this time. He felt something and a shadow appeared in front of him. Kasashin asked if he really got stronger. After all, this is it, his new blessing. If he accepts it, he can send out shadows to watch out for enemies from afar. Now this power is very useful to him. The guy replied that it was difficult for him to disagree, and he thought that with this blessing, he would be able to observe his detractors while remaining in the shadows. Hasashin asked if he was willing to accept his blessing. He said he was ready, and they told him it would hurt a little. The pain brought him back to the time when he had fought the knight. The knight cursed as he tried to hit it. He was sure he had hit it, but the shadow disappeared and then attacked him. Hasashin laughed and said that this scene captures him every time. The guy screamed in pain, but after a while they were done. He asked me how it was. Defensive skills are now in his head. The guy was surprised, but he thought that every time he met with his past lives, he goes through this. He said that he didn't even feel it, thinking that he probably had fun playing with it. Kasashin replied that of course it was a lot of fun. As soon as he receives the blessing, memories from his past life come to him and a trickle-down effect occurs. Trickle-down effect is an effect that gives a person the skills of an ancestor. And no matter how complicated the procedure may be, it will seem quite simple to him. It would probably become clearer to him if he studied magic. The guy asked if he had ever been a magician in one of his lifetimes. He replied that he had 990,000 past lives, and logically, there were also the greatest dimension archmages there. In addition, they'd all studied different areas of magic. He thought that maybe he could reach their level. They told him that if he continued to train, then anything was possible. He could try to use the blessing without thinking too much about it, and he asked them to stop reading his mind. The guild leader tried to summon a shadow, and Hasashin said that it was great and suggested that we try to create another shadow. He summoned another shadow, but thought it was his maximum right now. He was told that, as expected, 2 shadows is too much for a beginner. This spell is the most difficult of all high-level magic because it consumes so much mana, so it can't be helped. But creating at least 1 on the first attempt is an excellent result. Now he must not be greedy and go back. He can go and create the shadow of his worst enemy. In its current state, it is capable of doing so. The guy was running along the path and thought that guilds of gold rank and above have excellent informants, so they'd probably know the rumors about him. This will force the silver-ranked guilds to do something. If these false rumors were leaked through the background organizations, which guild would decide to make the first move? The supervisor abruptly came up from behind and said that he thought it would be the Anderson Guild. The guy got scared and asked where he came from, and he said that he swore allegiance to him. And I'm ready to show up at any time if it's for his sake. The boy thought that didn't answer his question. The guild leader said they could put it aside, but asked why it was them. The leader replied that this is so because this guild now leads everyone in the sense that it leads any actions. Even among the silver ones, the Andersons' reputation isn't the best. They used forbidden methods to reach their current level. Therefore, it is rumored that there are always some disputes inside the top of the guild. If they are known as villains, then they are most suitable for this role. Not only that, but their guildmaster is terrifyingly strong. Rumor has it that they tried to steal an A-rank weapon, but failed. The guy agreed, said that he would send a personal informant to them. The man asked what kind of personal informant he was. The guild leader said he couldn't tell you everything, but he was someone you could trust. He replied that if the guildmaster trusted him, then so did he. The guy was standing in the study trying to summon a shadow. He showed Shadow the picture on his phone and told her to find him and keep an eye on him. The guy smiled, and the shadow ran away. Several cars were driving along the highway. There were two guys sitting in one of the cars. One of them asked if the other had heard that this Ace Guild they were currently going to got something special after clearing the hidden dungeon. Of course, and since this rumor is only spreading among the lower classes, he immediately reported to his superiors as soon as he found out. Although he didn't know what the treasure in this dungeon was, it could be a quick path to gold rank for their guild. The main man asked for attention and said that their opponents were the leaders of a small bronze guild and a couple of guards, so they would easily win. They will take this treasure by any means necessary. He asked them if they understood him. Everyone said yes, of course. He repeated once more that their job was to catch and escort everyone, which was exactly what the boss had said. One guy apologized and asked what to do if they couldn't be captured. The man replied that then they would kill you in the most brutal way. They need to inspire fear. But the guy said he'd heard they had little kids. Does this also apply to them? The chief asked since when did the Anderson Guild's assassins care about such small matters. The guy apologized. He said they were almost there, so they should get out, and everyone said it was accepted. The guard heard the commotion, but before he could react, others were rushing at him. The guild assassins reported that they had taken care of the security around the manor. They were told that this is great, they can go inside. They killed another guard, and one of them asked the other if it was them, to which he replied that yes, it seems that the others have already moved to the manor. The man said they should hurry then. They asked to call a second squad because they're going inside. The man asked if everyone remembered everything. They kill everyone except their target. Let's get started. One of the guild's assassins reached out to open the door, but someone cut it off. The guildmaster shouted that they should figure out the enemy's location and not act so stupid because they were attacked. The captain was told that there didn't even seem to be anyone here. But how is this possible? They didn't know. There is absolutely no one here, as if they never existed. The other mercenary was killed with a single blow. The squad leader was very angry. He thought that there wasn't a single soul here. If they didn't leave here, they would all be dead. He told them all to leave quickly through the window. But they continued to be attacked. The leader did not understand what was happening, said that it was impossible, he could not see anyone, so who was doing this? Suddenly a voice was heard, and they asked if they were asking who it was. Kang Hyun-jun abruptly appeared. The valiant sword of Sidon Miller is with you. This sword will not break as long as the valor of righteous people exists. The guy smiled and said that was true. The righteous shield of Kasaga will protect you. You are safe as long as the great warrior is with you. He said that the moment they decided to attack their guild, they signed a death contract for themselves. Danzing will live. You will never fall as long as you have someone to protect. He called a meeting of the Ace Guild heads. Guys with guns appeared. One of them said it was a beautiful night. The other told him to be quiet. The mercenary asked if they had been trapped in the first place, and was told that they seemed to be. It seems that Kang Hyun-jong has sent all the top members here. The supervisor asked what they should do, to which he replied that they needed to make sure that none of them escaped from here. They all went on the attack. The bullet grazed the cheek of the other guild leader. He asked them what they were doing, and told them to get rid of the armed men first, and as quickly as possible. They didn't die, no matter how they were attacked. It seems that the opponent has an A-rank healer, or even higher on their side. If this is how things have turned out, we should at least get rid of Kang Hyun-jong. He shouted that we had to find him. The guy asked if they were looking for him, to which the man swore. Kang Hyun-jong said it was a shame. He didn't need to worry because he wouldn't kill him right away. He called the manager and told him to send a message to Anderson, telling him that they had taken hostages. They'll see who takes the bait. The guy was approached and asked how he feels after reawakening. Does he really feel like he's gotten stronger? The guy replied that in the kitchen, he said to eat faster and not worry about it. She replied that she didn't want to eat, she didn't have an appetite, and then asked me to skip at least one breakfast. The guy said that she only has skin and bones, she should quickly eat everything, do it through force. He tried to feed her porridge, but the girl screamed that she didn't want to, after which the guy calmed down a little. He replied that even if she didn't want to, she should eat, so she would recover faster, she should rest more and eat well. She doesn't have to worry about money anymore. She hesitated, then asked Lee Q-won what he looked like. He always looked like he was carrying the whole world on his shoulders. She asked him to give her a spoon because she would eat it all by herself. The guy smiled. She said that she still invite him, because after his second awakening, he could become a hunter, as he always dreamed. Now he will be able to help people and become known as a cool hunter. The guy agreed and told Hee-yeon that he would try hard to become a great hunter and he would be proud of him. The headquarters of the Anderson Guild. He was called several times, but the executive manager was looking intently at the screen. Finally, they came up to him and said that he had been distracted a lot lately and asked if he was doing well. The guy replied that he was fine, there was no need to worry about that. He was asked if he would submit the report immediately. He replied that he would have to, because their subordinates had suffered a lot, he would be back soon. It was Lee Q-won, the executive manager of the Anderson Guild. He went into the office and addressed the guild head. The man clicked his tongue, but told Director Yu that she could go. The woman agreed. As she was leaving, she asked the manager what he was staring at. The guy looked at the floor. The guild leader asked why he came so early and didn't even knock. Then he asked if he would like a drink, since he had bought some good wine yesterday. The manager replied that the team sent to the Ace Guild was almost completely destroyed. Only 4 survived. Ai Sung-jin, the head of the Anderson Guild, asked what it was. The manager continued that they received a message from the Ace Guild. They somehow found out that they were behind the attack. He replied that it was understandable and asked what was in the message. Lee Q-won said that he might not like to hear this, but he would repeat that message exactly. They need to hold a press conference and make an official statement that they attacked them. In this case, they will return the hostages to them unharmed. Otherwise, they can prepare coffins for them. The guild leader drank and cursed, asking how dare a bronze-ranked guild threaten a silver-ranked one. The manager replied that he had to make a deliberate decision. They had killed a lot of their subordinates. They might have an ace up their sleeve that they didn't know about, so they should be careful. The man said that we need to call all the leaders, let them prepare for a second attack. The manager lost patience, asked about the hostages. If they attack, they will definitely be killed, but the head of the guild replied that sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Their guild's reputation is at stake, and they should be willing to sacrifice a few subordinates for it, right? The guy replied that it is, he will call those who are free. The guild leader shouted and threw alcohol in his face, asking if he understood the situation they were in. He must mobilize all their forces, cancel all previous tasks. Lee Q-won said that if they do this, many important tasks will be suspended. The guild leader said that their number one task is to get rid of the people from the Ace Guild. He can't believe he's so ignorant of orders. Does he look down on him? Have you forgotten who's the boss here? If he tells him to do something, he has to do it. The guy nodded and agreed. But if it's a trap, Kang Hyun-jun, he really is a creepy guy. Kang Hyun-jun looked at the screen and rejoiced. It said that the revenue from A rank was 1.3 billion and was sent to the guild head's account. He thought about how they only got this kind of compensation for the sweep squad. That's not bad, right? The supervisor apologized to him and said that the Special Forces investigator had arrived. The guy said it was great and asked to be let in. The man said that he was from the Special Forces and asked if they had been informed of his arrival. The guy thought that he appeared, yawning loudly. He said yes, said hello, and asked me to sit down. The man said that the investigation came to this conclusion. It won't be difficult to prove that it was self-defense. As for the culprit, he needs to investigate further. The guild leader thanked him. The investigator asked if there were any surviving witnesses, asked them to report if there were any, because he would send them to the appropriate department, where they would be taken care of. The guy thanked him for asking, said that there were no survivors, they were all killed. The investigator agreed and left. The guild leader said that judging from how quickly he went through the case, someone was putting pressure on them. He doesn't think it's an Anderson. Then he asked if there was any news about them. The supervisor said that not yet, they had assembled the management team instead of holding a press conference. The guy asked what about the hostages, if they were still silent. The man replied that yes, they had been supportive of them all along, but it was time to take them seriously. He said that the executive director was right, they were as polite as possible to him. It's time to get a little rougher to get the information out of them. The guy said it didn't look like he had a day off. He thought he hoped the prisoners would start talking soon. No matter what they do to them, they are silent. Kang Hyun-jun realized that he had fallen asleep and cursed because he still had so much to think about. Generally, does he have 2 options today? Lord of Pain and a selfish negotiator. He has a rough idea of what a selfish negotiator is, but perhaps a Lord of Pain. Can it be something like this? The guy imagined a man covered in blood with a saw. He could feel the danger coming from the door. But since he can't talk sense into the members of the Anderson Guild, all he has to do is beat them up. The guy chose the Lord of Pain. He counted the steps aloud, but someone repeated them. He asked me what that sound was. Someone once again said 1, 2, 3, a natural turn, here, chase, in ballet chase, a jump with gathering outstretched legs in the air in V position and simultaneously moving in any direction. A tall man who was dancing with a skeleton approached the guy. He greeted his rebirth and smiled. The guy saw around other skeletons, dirt, and medical devices. He's definitely a madman. The man said his name was Pierre, and this was Ilias, his best friend. He asked Deli again, didn't he? The guy hesitated and said it was nice to meet you, but there was something he wanted to ask. The man replied that he could ask what he wanted, except for his hand and heart. The guildmaster said that he is called the Lord of Pain. Could it be this pain from torture? The man laughed and said that when he was alive, he worked as a torture master in the Empire. As he sees it, they only worked with these tools. The guy asked him to teach him how to torture people. The man said no, because how can he teach him something that he doesn't know himself? The head of the guild asked what it was, because he said that he worked as a master of torture. He said there were more absurd things in life than he thought, just like right now. God once gave him this exceptional ability. He snapped his fingers and the boy slumped into a chair. The Pain Lord asked to introduce himself again. He said that he can control the suffering of others. If he wants to, he can cause hell of pain using any items. The only limitation was that he had to invest his magic power into the opponent. Usually he would use a needle to transfer his magic power. A game? After all, this is not much. The man asked if he had just thought it was a little weird. The guy replied that this was not the case, and then asked what blessing he would receive. The man said it was pain management. The guild leader thought that controlling the opponent's pain was a terrifying ability. He asked what the activation and awakening conditions were. The man replied that he only needed to pierce himself 3 times with his needle. If he could bear it, he would receive a blessing. The guy clarified what would happen if he couldn't. The Lord of Pain replied that he would have to wait for the next opportunity. But isn't he in urgent need of his blessing? He should not miss the chances that are given to him just because he is reborn. Because not all of them are good at Volia. The guy said he'd try, but he thought he was getting too close. The man asked if he should be bound hand and foot, to which the man said no, just let him start, and the Lord of Pain said it was sad. He asked if he was ready, said he would stab 3, 1, 2. The boy screamed in pain, and the man laughed. Lord Pain said that now it was 3, and then he said that Nietzsche, the German philosopher, said that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. How beautiful. Does he not think this quote suits him? The guy thought that he was crazy. What does Nietzsche have to do with this? And he should not use this phrase as he pleases. Besides, he had to have poked me with a needle. So still count to 3. Why was he even like this in his previous life? The man asked if he enjoyed the incredible pain. Now his blessing will be with him. The guy screamed and woke up on the floor of his room. If he didn't recover, he would have already gone crazy from all his past lives. He drank some water and made a phone call while standing in the kitchen. The guy asked to pick up the phone. After a while, the general director answered him. The head of the guild asked where the hostages were. He replied that they were locked in a secret house outside the city of Anyang, a city in Gyeonggi Province, South Korea. But he doesn't have to be involved in such matters. The guy said he wanted to try something, he would be there soon. The man replied that he would let Jung Sung know. Kang Hyun-jung said that he should tell him to properly guard his family while he was away. The manager said he understood. The man brought him to the hostages, said they were here. Hostages were sitting on chairs. The guy noticed one of them. I think it was he who then gave the command to retreat. The guy asked if he was one of the leaders, said he was just asking to make sure he didn't tell them anything, didn't he? The man cursed and asked if they thought he would say anything to them. The guy exhaled, said how scared he was, and then said that if it was like this, it would hurt a lot. The man replied that torture wouldn't work on him. The guildmaster said it wasn't as impressive as the heels. Maybe he should try it out on his teammate first. The beginning of a dangerous collaboration with Pierrot. As long as you are with him, the pain is under your control. The man screamed in pain and died soon after. The leader, horrified, replied that he would tell them everything, just don't let him come near him. The guy replied that he was in person, and then ordered to record his testimony and give it to him. As quickly as possible, he smiled. After some time, the supervisor said that he had put together all the information received from the prisoners today. He handed the papers to the guy, and the guild leader asked if it would be enough. The men replied that yes, it would be easier to gather more information using what they already have. There was very little information about the Anderson Guild, so it was problematic for them to get data about it. The guy asked if there was a connection to the Anderson Guild, or if it was still missing. The men replied that they continue to deny their guilt. The guy said it looked like he would have to meet them in person. The manager asked if it was necessary because it was too dangerous, to which the guild head said that it was fine, he was just going to talk to them and put a little pressure on them. The man tried to stop him with his hands outstretched. He said that no one knew what this hot-tempered guild director Anderson was capable of, and he will definitely continue to deny any involvement in the attack. The guy pulled his hand away and said that it's fine if things go bad. He can leave even if the whole management team attacks him. As long as he has Hasashin's blessing, he is confident that he can leave. The guy said that, however, if the Anderson Guild was defeated, the other guilds wouldn't be able to take action easily. They will show others an example by using the Anderson Guild. The man hesitated, to which he said it was perfect. The guild leader said that then they would leave tomorrow night. The steward replied that he would strengthen the security of his estate in case of unforeseen dangers. The guild leader asked if they were sure he was inside. On the phone, he was told that yes, he had confirmation that An Sung-jin was inside the guild office right now. The guy said that he had one reliable observer for Lee Q1 who told him that he wasn't in the building right now. But since An Sung-jin is here, he's coming in. Just let them take care of his family. The guild leader thought that Lee Q1, the managing director of the Anderson Guild, was one of the people An Sung-jin kept around for profit. Anyway, he takes care of his little sister. How touching. But even so, he can't afford to express sympathy. He didn't have any intentions of causing any direct harm, but I wonder how An Sung-jin will react to that. The guy tried to enter the building, but was stopped by security guards and asked if he was a member of the Anderson Guild. The guy asked me to tell the director that the director of the Ace Guild is here. He was told that he could enter, and he would show them to the guild director's office. The guy went to the elevator. The security guard told him that this elevator will take him directly to the 5th floor. Those who will guide them further are waiting for him there. The guy said goodbye to them. The guild leader thought that he knew things were going too smoothly, but people with guns appeared in front of him and asked if he was Mr. Kang Hyun-jun. The guy said, so that's the kind of hospitality they show to members of other guilds. He asked why they were holding weapons. They should have been informed about his visit. The guild members replied that it was the Anderson Guild, and he had to follow their rules if he wanted to live. The guy said it was stupid. They'd asked him what he just said. Because he should know his place and follow his manners, he started out as an ordinary F-rank hunter. The head of the guild said that it was all that rank talk again. He'd had enough. Enough. The guild master used the ability to cause pain on everyone. Everyone screamed in pain. One of the guild members shouted that the squad leader seemed to be having a heart attack. He asked what it was, and the other man ordered the guy to stand, because he couldn't get in until he told him what he was doing here. Someone ordered silence, asked if this interesting guy was the head of the Ace Guild, and then suggested that we go to the office. Kang Hyun-jun thought that this must be the guild master's office. He opened the door. There was a man standing by the window who said he was very impudent, asked if it was because he was a youngster. The guy suggested that he take an etiquette lesson with his subordinates before saying anything to him. The man smiled and then told him to sit down, asked if he would drink. The head of the Ace Guild replied that he wasn't here to have idle conversations. He sat down and said that he could stand if he wanted to, and he would probably settle down on his comfortable couch if he didn't mind. The guy said that his house was recently attacked, and the man replied that he saw on the news it was terrible. However, attacking a bronze guild isn't uncommon. Kang Hyun-jung said that he had sent him a message and asked if he had received it. He said he didn't understand what he was talking about and asked if there was anything he wanted to tell him. The guy asked if he claimed that he had nothing to do with the attack. The man smiled and asked what would happen if he did. The guy thought about how he should back off if he dealt with him now, and it became known that he was here, then he would fall under suspicion. Aloud, he asked if this meant that he could do as he saw fit with the prisoners. The head of the Anderson Guild asked why he was asking him about people he didn't know, if he was being too reckless because his guild was on the rise. He's sorry to say it, but they're only a bronze-ranked guild. He needs to know his place and not jump above his head if he wants to survive. The guy asked if it was a threat. The man asked if it sounded like a threat and then laughed. The man swore and asked if it was funny. He said no, I just wanted to capture that expression on his face. The man asked what it was, and the head of the Ace Guild said that he wanted to check it out in a week. The head of the Anderson Guild asked what it meant, and the guy said that he would see if it would be fun for him as well. The supervisor greeted the head of the Ace Guild, said that it was nice to see that he wasn't injured, and then asked how it went. The guy replied that, as expected, he had issued a warning. All that remained was to start a war with the Anderson Guild, as they had planned. The man said that several guilds were watching them because there was a rumor that they had obtained a special treasure from a hidden dungeon. If they want to go up against the Anderson Guild, then they need to be dealt with first. Another man added that they were not able to identify the bodies they found in his house. This is just his guess, but it is possible that whoever is behind the attack deliberately made it difficult to identify the corpses, putting pressure on the authorities. He didn't like the attitude of the Special Forces investigator they sent here. Something is definitely not right here. The manager replied that this was impossible and asked if they also controlled the Special Forces department. In this case, the organizer must be at least a high-ranking politician or the president of a large corporation. If this is true, then they are out of luck with the executive power. Even though their funds were protected with Choi Na-young's foundation, they barely expanded their executive branch. In the current situation, it's too risky to ask the police for help. It might be illogical, but he thinks their only option is to have an unofficial battle. The man apologized and took out his phone, then said there was a problem. 4 of their members were brutally murdered last night. The Special Police Department believes that this is the work of hunters and began an investigation this morning, but they claim that no evidence was found at the crime scene. He wondered if they were trying to instill fear in his guild members. He slammed his fist on the table and said that they looked down on him. The supervisor said that he had previously said that they would lose if they relied on their executive power, didn't he? Kang Hyun-jong told them not to worry, he would take care of their leaders, told them to tell the others to focus on protecting their people. The man thought that he was ashamed that he had let up the slack back then. His duty was to do everything to help the guild head. He replied that he would do everything in his power. The guy told the head of intelligence to get him a photo of all the senior members of the Anderson Guild and their names, asked if he could do it, to which the latter replied that yes, he needed 3 hours. Kang Hyun-jong continued that he needed him to do something else for him. He needed information about this place. The man replied that he understood him. He will deal with it right now. He handed over a note with the address of the hospital written on it. This may be the key to the weakness of one of the leaders of the Anderson Guild, so he must act secretly. The man asked if he knew that their team had received a list of targets from the Ace Guild yesterday, because now they were at war with them. Another replied that they can finally relax after stagnation. He said he doubted it because it was a small guild, they wouldn't even have fun. Today, he had already killed 1 Ace Guild member, a D-rank hunter around 20 years old. It looked like he had just woken up. The man was surprised. Already, the order was sent only yesterday. He told Rascal that he must have been holding back too much. The man replied that he had also worked on his corpse. They must have been very scared there. The other one told him that it had worked perfectly. Maybe they could have a little fun after all. Suddenly, the man was pierced by something and blood gushed out. He fell down. Another guild member screamed and thought that he couldn't sense anyone's presence. From where in general? Kang Hyun-jong came up to him. He said it looked like they were having a fun conversation. He hoped he wasn't interrupting, and then he hit him in the back so that the man also fell into the pool. He asked him how he got here. The guy said that the first target, Dim Kyun-jun, was eliminated. The man replied that he had killed his target. He had nothing to do with it. The head of the Ace Guild asked if he was the one who killed their newbie. The man began to beg for mercy, initiating a dangerous relationship with Pierre. As long as you are with him, the pain obeys you. The guy replied that he had asked him to do the same, but he had killed him mercilessly, so he would do the same. The guy used his ability. It looks like he eliminated all the Anderson Guild leaders who were monitoring their people. They must be panicking right now. Un Seung-jin will be furious. The head of the Anderson Guild was informed that the Ace Guild had lost 4 core members and 6 rookies. They'd also lost 20 senior members, including 5 managers and 2 managers. He asked how this could have happened and if there was any evidence, but they told him there was nothing left, and the department said it was the first time they'd ever seen such a masterful sweep of evidence. The man asked how they were able to kill 20 people in 2 days, so 7 of them are managers. The manager asked if he thought it made sense, to which the girl replied that she had no idea. The guild head said that he'd heard that they attacked them yesterday. But what happened? Why couldn't they win? If they have excuses, the executive director should tell them. He apologized and replied that all their resources had been mobilized for the attack, but the enemy's stealth skills were incredible. They couldn't even detect them, let alone attack. The girl said that Park Yong-kyu's supervisor even set up a trap to attack at dawn, but nothing came of it. According to the survivor, they were ambushed when he regained consciousness, and everyone, including the supervisor, was killed. The men asked if Park Yong-kyu wasn't A rank, if his group wasn't B rank, how they were annihilated in an instant. Do they really expect him to believe this nonsense? Yes, they are at best made of bronze. They won't be able to handle them. The guy replied that their guild master had woken up twice. In addition, according to informants, there are more. The man cursed and asked why he couldn't understand that the most important thing right now was that they were being attacked. The manager asked the guild master to calm down. He said that an A-rank hunter and 2 B-rank hunters were defeated in the blink of an eye because he felt stupid for being used. This means that in the best case, someone of A rank or higher intervened, in the worst case, S rank. The man asked what he wanted from him. The manager replied that they had never lost like this because everyone they faced was weaker than them. In this hunt, the predator is not Oni. A hunt is a battle between 2 or more guilds in order to destroy it once and for all. The girl continued that more than 9 executives have died in the last 24 hours. The situation is escalating too much. They must do something. The man asked her if she thought the same as the manager. The girl agreed and said that they could not allow themselves to be trampled further. They should do everything possible. The guy replied that their strength had weakened. If they fought their superiors in this state, they would definitely lose. The girl asked when she had said that they should fight with their leaders. But if they're not about them, then who? The guy said it couldn't be. She replied that it was bingo, they would direct their forces at ordinary guild members. Looking through the records, she realized that they didn't seem to have mobilized all of their top brass to fight terror. So they can handle them, right? Ordinary guild members are ordinary people. The manager said that if they continue to carry out terrorist acts, the department will definitely step in. But isn't it his job to keep them quiet? The girl said she thought he was competent, but it looks like he's not. He said he would do what he could. Kang Hyun-jong was thinking that they were going to go after the guild members regardless of whether they were a threat, right? What a good opportunity. If they take advantage of this situation properly, it might lead them to victory. Even if the special police squad didn't take care of it, they still had a chance. There is no guarantee that they will get convincing evidence of the Anderson Guild's involvement in this case. If they make even one mistake by admitting everything, they can break them. He didn't expect their next decision to be a terrorist attack. They should feel cornered. He called the manager, said that he had just received a message from his informers saying that the Anderson Guild would increase its offensive by targeting the regular members of their guild. The man replied that in this case, it would be more difficult for them to repel their attacks with the help of the executive department alone. The guy said that most likely it is impossible. They do not need to resist others, they just need to show them that they are trying their best. The manager asked him what he meant. The guy replied that it would be enough just to increase the scale of the case in order to attract a special police department. He suggested that nevertheless, they should protect their comrades at all costs. The man replied that he understood, just in case he would contact the special police department. The guild director was told that this is an attack. 5 permanent and 8 variable guild members are dead. The guy thought that the losses were bigger than he thought. He asked if anyone from the special police department had come, to which he was told that no, if they had retreated, they would not have suffered such losses. The guild head said to help the executive director, and he will take care of the problem of the special squad. The man replied that he understood. The guy thought that the executive director had definitely contacted them, which meant that they were blatantly ignoring them. They'll see how long they can keep it up. He made a phone call, and someone answered him. Is this the great Kang Hyun-jun? The guy asked how he was doing. The man replied that he didn't even have to ask. He had been working down the street since he was assigned to the 3rd Investigation Department. The guild head apologized that he was making a request to him, even though he hadn't called him for so long, but whether he could do him a favor. The man asked why he was being so serious. Of course, he could ask him anything. They were friends. The guy specified whether he knows journalists working in well-known newspapers or radio stations. The man told someone at work not to put the box there, and then reacted that he knew several of them. The guild leader replied that he would soon get a scoop. Indiscriminate terrorism against certain guilds. Indiscriminate terrorism. Terrorism against all guild members, permanent and temporary. Dozens of people died. The special police squad is silent. The special police department is corrupt. Will we put up with it? The manager said that the special police department had sent out a search party. It should be difficult for them to sit back and continue doing nothing after everyone has paid attention to what is happening. The guy asked how many people they had sent out. He was told that they had sent 2 detachments and a platoon, a total of 120 people. A platoon is a unit that exists in the armed forces of most states. The platoon was located in the guild building, and the 2 squads were divided into groups and sent to the tracks and underground tunnels that their guild most often uses to move. The guy said that in any case, since they now have to look after their reputation in front of the public, the Anderson Guild will stop attacking for a while. But they still have no conclusive evidence. Then it will have to search for them on its own. The only one who can attack the Anderson Guild, knowing that their hands are tied. It is he who has received the blessing of Haseshin. He told the manager that he would stay at home for a while, asked if he knew what he meant. The man replied that yes, in that case, he would prepare everything necessary for his alibi. The manager handed the guy a piece of paper and said it was the morning schedule for the Anderson Guild executive meeting. Although he was able to obtain this information thanks to the informer he introduced him to, still, he was impressed by it. The guild leader thanked him. The merciless darkness of Haseshin envelops you. As long as the darkness is with you, you become a shadow. The guy said that then he leaves, and the manager should take care of everything. The man thought that he was really amazing. He should hurry up and prepare everything. The manager of the Ace Guild called their director. He shouted at the man not to tell him that he was really dead. Wants to use this? The man was drinking wine. He asked if he had already found out about it, how fast it was. The executive director replied that his people were running it. It would be strange if he didn't know about it. The man asked, is that so, because he hadn't thought about it. The guy told the guild director, didn't he promise to use this? Moreover, even the special police department intervened in the situation. A lot has changed since then. He asked if he had watched the news. Although they were not mentioned, it looked as if they were the instigators of this indiscriminate terrorism. If they're going to cause a massacre just by using this, the guild head said that just like last time, he's saying things that the executive director shouldn't say. All witnesses must be killed. The guy asked if he meant even civilians. The man said that he would not explain anything more, he could leave. The manager told the director that even their Anderson Guild managers wouldn't get away with killing so many people. He asked how his sister was doing. He's doing a lot for him, right? Then he must do his job carefully. Now he can leave, he has nothing more to say. The guy shouted that there would undoubtedly be evidence left if this happened to Anderson. He was being escorted out of the office, and he kept shouting that the guild director couldn't do it. But the door closed. The men sighed and said that they weren't even high-ranked. He was told that there were 20 people to deal with, but they were nothing more than weaklings. The guy watched as they begged for mercy, but the man in front of them cursed, said that because of people like them, he was called in the middle of the night. They said they wouldn't say anything, begged for mercy again, promised that they would say they hadn't seen anything, but he was adamant that they had seen too much. The guy thought that he was trying to get rid of even the witnesses. He was definitely crazy. Someone asked him what he thought, if he should be killed. He wondered who it was, if it was a berserker. The berserker replied that he didn't know, maybe he should break their skulls. He can't kill them quickly after he finally crawled out of the basement for the first time in a long time. That would be too boring. He grabbed one of the men by the neck. He thought that his strange physical mutations were undoubtedly a side effect of the berserk drug. So in the guild, Anderson used the illegal drug berserk. Here's the crucial proof he was looking for. The guy started using his blessing. All that's left to do. He attacked the berserker. He said it looked like the rat had arrived uninvited, even though he wasn't informed about this sudden visit. The guy asked if the Anderson Guild had drugged him. The man laughed, said that he didn't seem to share something with them, and then apologized that he had already beheaded all of them. He doesn't have to worry, because he'll be next. The shield of justice of Karsago protects you. As long as the Great Protector is with you, you are safe. But the berserker broke through the shield. The guy missed the blow. Kang Hyun-jun thought about how Karsago's blessing didn't work on him. Sidon Miller's sword of grace is with you. The blade will not be broken until your habitual anger is crushed. But even Sidon Miller's sword, the guy did not succeed. He fell to the ground, and the man asked if he was exhausted. Why did he decide to come here and run into trouble without even bringing reinforcements? It would be a pity to kill him right away. Maybe he could cut off his hands first. He thought that the blessings weren't working because of his physical changes. He still has to protect the witnesses and members of the Ace Guild, and my family. Kang Hyun-jun used the Defender of Justice. Durendal appreciates your just verdict. The spirit and will of Durendal are in you. As long as you stay on the side of justice, he will not leave you. The berserker asked how it happened. How could such a wound heal in an instant? The guy said he asked him why he was running into trouble without backup. Sorry to tell him, but he's got backup. This is an army of 990,000 soldiers. The man asked the hostage if he was all right and said he was safe now. The man thanked him. The man said that he knew that it was difficult for him, but he should try to explain what happened. Kang Hyun-jun replied that he happened to be passing by and saw someone get killed. He thought that fortunately the witnesses had survived. The Anderson Guild would soon be shut down. Suddenly, the executive director called out to him. He said he'd been through a lot, and he'd already contacted the department. The man asked if he was leaving already, and he thought that he even brought coffee. The guy said that if he stayed here, the alibi they'd been working on would be meaningless. The man said that he hoped that he would return safely. Besides, he should check the internet tomorrow. There will be some fun news coming up. The head of the Anderson Guild cursed. They couldn't deal with a single witness. He addressed Lee Q1 and then slapped him in the face, asked if he felt sorry for his weak little sister. He should see how bad things are. This is his last chance. He wants him to bring him Kang Hyun-jung's head. The executive director of the Ace Guild revealed who was behind the massacre. Tragedy in the city center. The guy thanked the manager for his work, said that it was done well. He did not think that the news would shoot so much. The man replied that even though he was a B-rank hunter, his work was suitable for SSF rank. He would do anything for the guild master. The guy thought that he was much more enthusiastic than usual today. The man continued that they had contacted a special police unit. They said they would act if they handed them their evidence informally. And they also added that, even without them, they will start in 3 days. The guy said that then it would be better not to send anything, especially if there is a chance of negotiations with the Andersons. The man flared up, said that besides, they are asked to give them everything unofficially in order to take all their merits for themselves, even though they ignore all their requests to copy them, the shameless ones. Oh, and one more thing. The executive director of the Anderson Guild, Lee Q1, requested an official meeting. The guy asked when he would arrive, and the manager said that he was already waiting in the lobby. He said he would wait as long as it took. He has no idea what's wrong with him. The head of the Ace Guild told him to tell him that it was safe to pass. The guy came in and thanked the guildmaster for accepting his sudden request for a meeting. He is Lee Q1, who is in the service of the Anderson Guild. It's an honor to finally meet him. The guy replied that it was similar. Romanov's eyes are now with you. A shrewd look that sees right through everyone. An honorary assassin. Kang Hyun-jun thought that he was different from Sung-jin, the greedy slave trader. They're clearly on bad terms. The guy said that it was better to get straight to the point, asked what the purpose of his visit was. He said he had heard that the department would speak at the intervention, and he believes he has information related to their guild. The guy asked what he wanted. Lee Kyu-won replied that their guildmaster said that if he agreed to the deal, they would be willing to give them 3 A-rank weapons and establish a relationship. The guy asked me to stop. He asked about what Sung-jin really wants. He shouldn't beat around the bush, but should say it already. The manager of the Anderson Guild replied that he had come to negotiate. Kang Hyun-jun said he was lying. Is there anything he, or rather, Sung-jin wants, right? Does he want him to guess? Sung-jin, who used to help with his sister's medical bills, is now holding her hostage, right? So did he tell him to bring his head or something? The guy asked how he knew. Kang Hyun-jun replied that he could see his blade, so it was better to put it away and not be stupid again. Even if they didn't have proof, the department would have moved in 3 days. He asked the guy if he knew. If they intercede, the unofficial war will have to stop. But did he count how many of their hunters had died in those 3 days? It will be difficult for them to do anything because of public opinion, but it's different for them. Lee Kyu-won said that he seems to want something from him. The guy replied that he should bring as many higher-level hunters to their guild as he could, and then he could join him in the guild. The manager asked what he... The guy continued that he didn't believe that such a stupid Sung-jin could build such a guild. He was sure that someone else was doing some of the work. Let him take his hand. The manager said that the guildmaster would definitely kill his sister because he was crazy. The guy shouted that nothing would change if he just stood there. Does he really think he's just going to sit there? Even though he has an informant following their guildmaster. The manager asked who the informant was. The guild head continued that if it wasn't for him, how does he think he would have known exactly all of their plans? He should think about it. He will work with it for a maximum of 3 more days, so he has to make a choice. Either he stays there and dies with most of the leadership, or he joins them and protects the people he cares about. The guy asked what about his sister then, if he could ask them to protect her as well. He said that he didn't know what their intentions were. The guy replied that he was just protecting his guild from the Anderson attacks, and the manager continued that he was the one who sent soldiers to them. If he wanted to, he could climb the guillotine on his own. But if he still offers him his hand in marriage, then he agrees. The guy said he'd be back soon. When he came out, the manager asked if it was really normal. He said that his relationship with Sung-jin has worsened, but can they believe him? The guy replied that of course. The man asked if he hadn't heard what he had just said. He definitely said that he would be right back. The members of the Anderson Guild asked the executive director if this was true, or if the Ace Guild really wanted them to join them. One asked the other to keep his voice down. The manager replied that yes, it was true. The Ace Guild wants him to bring as many hunters as possible from their guild. That's why he tells the 2 of them about the offer. They asked if it was a trap, since they were the ones who attacked the Ace Guild. How can they accept them and let them in? The man replied that he was right, it was too dangerous. The guy asked them if they were aware of the current situation of the Anderson Guild. Sung-jin lost all sense of meaning and succumbed to Kang Hyun-jung's provocation, committed a reckless murder, but that's not all. He even killed an Ace Guild member and had the witnesses captured and killed, and worst of all, he got to the point where he used it. The men were shocked. They asked if he meant that he used berserk. But isn't this strictly forbidden by the Guild Association rules? The guy said yes, and Sung-jin broke that rule. But in the end, berserk didn't kill anyone because someone disabled it. The men asked who was capable of defeating this monster. The manager said they didn't have time, so they should stop talking. The Ace Guild has evidence that their guild is behind past attacks. Moreover, in 3 days, the SOP, Special Police Department, will launch an invasion, but will Anderson be able to hold off until then? The Anderson is nothing more than a tower made of blood. Right now, the Anderson Guild is nothing more than a vulnerable non-residential building. Which means... The man asked if he meant, and the other suggested that the other guilds holding grudges against them would. Something exploded from behind. The men screamed and begged for mercy, and the manager thought that he was easy to speak of. He told them to get as many executives out of here as possible, and he would buy them some time to escape. Let them save only those who will be useful to them. They are not able to save everyone. The men ran away, and he used the blessing of water. In the end, things turned out this way. He was slowly drenched in blood and didn't even realize that he was drowning. His death will be the atonement for his sins. And if he survives... The guildmaster called him, cursed him, and told him to leave immediately. Someone was sitting on the floor, begging for mercy. He called on the phone, said they were in trouble. The guild was suddenly attacked. The guy next to him was killed. Someone greeted Sung-jin and said that they hadn't seen each other in a while. The man asked who it was, to which he was told whether he could forget about it. He himself clearly remembers his face, looking in the mirror. It turns out that he is not the only one. He didn't know that there were still so many people who were as eager to see him again as he was. A crowd of men entered the office. The guild leader begged for mercy. He said that he would beg them as much as they wanted, so they would just spare his life. The man screamed. Kang Hyun-jun said that he managed to bring back 36 hunters with him. The guy replied that yes, this is all that is left of the main management force of the Anderson Guild, said that the head has already. The head of the Ace Guild said that he knows they were attacked by other guilds that still harbored a grudge against him. The manager shouted and asked what had just happened. He saw a shadow behind the chief. The guy asked if he hadn't told him that he had a personal informer. On Sung-jin and Yu-ji-ah were the leaders at that time, and after Anderson lost her leadership, it would be disbanded very soon. The manager thought about how impressive he was. The guy continued that he can be sure that nothing else threatens him. Welcome to the Ace Guild, Lee Kyu-won. He may no longer feel guilty for joining them. The guy asked why he was being more polite. The guild leader replied that he had become his ally, so he shouldn't talk to him informally. He had shouted before just to set the mood. His manager asked him if it was just for that, because he thought he was serious. Kang Hyun-jung said that he was probably at a loss, but he came back as soon as all the problems were settled. How does he know? He's been a little busy lately. He stayed up at night trying to win over someone without any further problems. They will talk about the transfer of the rest of the staff tomorrow, and then they named it Lee Kyu-won-shi. The manager told the guild head to be careful on the way home. He asked who Lee Kyu-won-suji was, and then said to wipe that smirk off his face. The guy thought he was jealous. The manager continued that the guild head had done a lot for him, but he was still the most outstanding member of the guild. Understand? The guy said that he would try to remember, but he thought that this is the so-called local dominant hierarchy, he needs to be careful. The man asked if they should go out on the roof for a second. He wondered if this place was really the same as the Anderson Guild. The manager said that the guild head is a good person, even though there were many obstacles, but the head did not break under their onslaught. It is very likely that he cannot resist giving a hand to the suffering for the sake of the safety of his loved ones. Lee Kyu-won replied that he was not a fool. He understood what the favor he had done him meant. Since his subordinates were coming here with him, he planned to hold back personal feelings as much as possible. The man asked why he was standing up like that. If someone sees it, they'll think they're being bullied. It was obvious that such methods were used in the Anderson Guild, but he shouldn't think that it was the same in the Ace Guild. The man asked to be allowed to say this before leaving. He took him by the scruff of the neck, pinned him to the edge of the roof, and went on to say that, regardless of the mercy the chief had shown him, he personally wasn't happy about the situation. Trying to recruit someone who is against their guild by sacrificing so many funds and people. What if, after everything they'd done, he decided to betray them? If he could have had his own way, he would have let go. It would end badly for him if he disappointed the head. Even if the head decided not to interfere, he wouldn't be idle. The man started to leave and said that he would be watching him closely, so he should try harder. Also, he wanted to warn just in case that it was better for him not to engage in bullying on the roof, because the head hates it. The guy coughed and thought what a nasty character that was. He's scary, but different from An Sung-jin. He thought that everything would be resolved once he left the Anderson Guild, but he was faced with a new challenge. The guy laughed. Lee Kyu-won said that, in any case, it seems that his relationship with the Anderson Guild is over. Kang Hyun-jun was lying on the bed and looking at the weapon. The butcher is satisfied with absorbing the blood he so desired. When he met the Anderson Guild, and starting from the moment he faced the berserker, this dagger was constantly vibrating. The appraiser said that meat gets stronger as it grows. Is that true? Since he said that he was satisfied, then it was time to discover his new power. The appraiser greeted him. The guy told the stack to order a grade for the subject. The man replied that it was fully charged with mana. Judging by the amount of it, it's an A-rank item. The guy replied that he was B-rank when he was evaluated for the first time. The appraiser said that then he should know that this item gets stronger as it grows. It looks like he used it well. His rank has been upgraded. Here is the evaluation report. It looks like a new ability was discovered. The guy read the notes. Blade control. The dagger flew up and then fell into his hand. Great, that's more than enough. Even his appearance had changed. He hit the jackpot. When he left the appraiser, the executive director called him, and the guy asked what was the matter. The man replied that he had heard the news that the Ace Guild had been awarded a silver rank. He did it. The manager said that he would explain the details in the office. Finally, the man said that if he said his location, he would direct the cart at him. The guy didn't answer, so he called him several times. A few seconds later, he ran into the officer's office. The guy asked if their guild had gone silver. The man replied that yes, everything is so, but only for 2 weeks. The place occupied by the Anderson Guild became vacant after their disbandment. As far as he knows, in order for the place to be assigned to them, 3 A-rank dungeons need to be cleared. The deadline is 2 weeks. The guy replied that they were starting right away. He needed to talk to the captain of the sweep team. The manager was surprised, but he replied that it just so happened that he had a new ability that he would like to try out. The man said that if they captured the dungeon with him and Han Seo-jin in one raid group, there wouldn't be much trouble. and 2 weeks will be more than enough. It wouldn't take long to get to the dungeon, and since it was close, they could easily ask for support if needed. The guild leader replied that it was fine, they should inform the first raid group about this strategy and be prepared. The man asked when he planned to start. Kang Hyun-jun replied that in 2 days. After a while, he went up to the girl and said hello to Nuna, apologizing for keeping her waiting. It's getting rather chilly, so they should meet at the guild hall. Nuna asked why this was so, as she liked a cool and refreshing autumn. She said that she heard from the raid team leader that they were going to capture an A-rank dungeon this time. And what? She is also involved in the capture. The guy asked if she was worried, to which the girl replied that, to be honest, yes, she was. They were always outsiders at the shelter, and they were beaten, bullied, and tortured with threats. Maybe that's why she keeps thinking bad thoughts. But at the same time, she has other thoughts. If she overcomes this, what kind of happiness will be waiting for her? And now that they're doing something they never dreamed of doing before, she thinks that despite the excitement and fear, she can overcome it all. Hyun-jun has come a long way. She ruffled his hair and said he was a scoundrel. Then the girl said that they must, by all means, clear this dungeon. The boy sat on the bed and thought about the altered memories. This was completely unexpected. What's wrong with this disgusting situation? Why would she do that? It's so unlike her. He told himself that he should calm down. He should be thinking about reaching the silver level, about getting stronger. Your 990,000 past lives support your continuous and rapid development. One of the previous lives said that he thought he was old enough, and he asked the others what they thought about it. They don't seem to be able to treat him like a child anymore. It is interesting. Past lives had discussed that even if they told him their real purpose, wouldn't it be pointless if he didn't step in? Right, since they are only third-party support, one of the past lives would like to ignore this wish. They asked if Durendal had fallen asleep again. And when that person appeared, wouldn't that be the beginning of their blossoming road? Blooming road, an easy and / or beautiful journey, for example, on the road, in life, relationships, etc. Another has passed the life of a person in which he will continue to talk this nonsense. He said it was their flaming flower road on fire figuratively, the villainous version of the blooming road. The first one replied that he thought it was too late. This guy just showed up. One of those who defy fate, Dios. It arrived earlier than he expected, but whatever the case, it should arrive on that day anyway. Everything is now in Kang Hyun-jung's hands. He invited Hasashin to talk. Past Life replied that he shouldn't use any more vicious means than Kang Hyun-jung needed to. He says he's preparing for that day, but he's not happy with his methods. That's how. The guy replied that neither he nor Durendal could stop Kang Hyun-jung anymore as long as he was strong enough. Wouldn't Estelle be able to handle this situation? Past Life asked if he was talking about the Red Wizard, because with Kang Hyun-jung's current strength, even if he learned this magic, he wouldn't be able to use it properly. Sidon Miller was told that when that day came, they would have to get a little more violent to win this war. So many righteous reincarnations have already been performed, but what was the result? The guy said that there was no need to worry because Kang Hyun-jung was doing well. Kang Hyun-jung found himself in the dark. Are these his past lives? Who is it this time? He was told that his name was Dios. Absolute will, representing 990,000 past lives. He wondered if it was true that he represented all 990,000 previous lives. Past Life replied that he was here to check on one thing before interfering with his fate. The guy asked what it means to interfere with his fate, what he wants to check. He said something that might give him a tiny bit of hope before the absolute despair that was coming. Kang Hyun-jung asked what kind of absolute despair it was. He thought about how he would have to pay for the power of past lives that he had obtained so quickly, but that would be absolute despair. Diaz said they were coming. The guy asked who they were. Past Life replied that he couldn't tell him now, but he couldn't let him know that he wouldn't have the slightest chance of surviving this disaster without a blessing. If he received his blessing, he would have a small chance of winning. But on the other hand, they will find out about its existence. The guy asked what would happen if they found out. Diaz replied that they would send at least S-rank fighters, which would be difficult for him to handle. Kang Hyun-jung asked what would happen if he didn't get his blessing, to which he replied that then the fighters wouldn't come, but the day of reckoning would definitely come. They can't know when it's going to happen, but if he escaped, he would buy himself some time. The guy asked if he would become stronger with his blessing. Diaz replied that yes, his strength couldn't compare to what he currently possessed. Kang Hyun-jung asked for his blessing and said that he wouldn't run away. Congratulations on becoming our loyal companion. From now on, the absolute will of the doers will interfere with your fate. You will get a chance to win, but they will find out about your existence. A magical power that changed fate. Is this Earth? Just think, someone already meets the requirements. How interesting. The guildmaster was told that it would be dangerous if this continued. The guy said that he had an important job for the manager. No matter what happens, he must protect Sojin Nuna with all his might. The manager replied that he would protect her no matter what. He thought that he seemed to be losing consciousness. He was asked if he now understood that it is not worth burying yourself without knowing your place. He should have stayed in a bronze-level guild, so why would he go all out of his way and do something like that? The guy thought that he was too naive, or rather too arrogant, a week earlier. Recently, there have been non-stop disappearances of low-ranked hunters. According to the investigation of the SOP, Special Police Department, there are various reasons for this. Recently, all the news about one. The guy said that they should strengthen the guild's defense system. After all, the Ace Guild hadn't reached a high level yet. The manager ran in, called the guildmaster, and said that their guild would finally be upgraded to silver level. He thought that he wouldn't live to see this day. The manager did an incredible job, and it's all thanks to him. He said that due to their promotion, Poldal-gu in Suyan was designated as their special raid zone. The guy replied that it meant cleaning up Poldal-gu in their own interests. Of all places, there is the fiercest competition. The manager replied that everything was correct, as it turned out that the raid administration requested their presence. Kang Hyun-jong asked if it was right now, if a gate had accidentally appeared there. The man replied that yes, they said that they had already contacted other guilds. He'll take him there. Is this the chance that Diaz sent me to? Park Si-jun greeted and introduced himself. He said that he was the team leader of the second observation team of the Soyan Tower. Since they don't have much time, it will be brief. The urgency of the raid lies in the fact that the proposed location is located in Palbalgun and Inidon. The approximate difficulty of the raid is a record-breaking A rank. The manager said that the people here are the other guild masters and representatives from Palbalgu, as well as the rest of the retinue. Simply put, for the Ace Guild, raids will be different from dungeons. Monsters will appear due to the suddenly formed spatial gate. In this case, fortunately, the raid detection system will notice it in advance. Ace was also sent to their special zone. The guy said that the Ace Guild has a suitable qualification since it was promoted to a silver-level guild. It was Ju Yeri, the Vice Guild Master of the Great Demon Guild. He asked again if he could definitely ask Guild Master Ace if they were going to exercise their priority rights. The manager said that this guy is the Vice Guild Master of the Great Demon Guild, Ju Yeri. The guild leader replied that of course, in the end, these rights were granted to them quite fairly. The guy said that in that case, their guild wouldn't use their priorities, he just wanted to see how good the Ace Guild would be. If so, the Blade Guild won't use priorities either. Neither did Holbol. And others. The men asked if they were going to play with people's lives. The guy said he didn't say they wouldn't block the raid. Didn't they hear you? Guild Master Ace said that he was going to use the priority rights. He is sure that there is bad intent in this. When kids with big dreams who just came out of bronze say they want to face a raid, they can't stop them. In this case, they will not declare the current priority rights. Kang Hyun-jun said that they will use exclusive rights instead. They asked him again if they had misheard him. Romanov's eyes rested on you. The all-knowing eye sees into the very essence of things. A greedy ally. The guy was asked where his respect is. No matter how fearless he is, he should learn to read the atmosphere. If he continues to be so tactless, then you can get angry with him. Guildmaster Ace said not to speak down to him. He scared everyone. Since the other guilds have given up using priorities, Ace will be in an exclusive position. The Vice Guild Master cursed. She said she would use this opportunity to teach him a lesson. She'll show him what happens when you disrespect a gold-tier guild. The men asked if they would really use the exclusive rights. Even so, doesn't that just give them control of the front position? Just because the other guilds are slightly behind doesn't turn the raid into a disaster. The man said that disasters may be rare, but not that they didn't happen at all. Kang Hyun-jong replied that he didn't need to worry so much. They would succeed. He said that the awakened hunters always achieved what others thought was impossible, and he would trust him again. The girl said he was quite friendly. Allows Ace's guild, which he sees for the first time, to use exclusive rights without objection. Of all the guilds that are already in the special raid zone in Paldagu, the Great Demon Guild is the only one that has a gold level. He doesn't know who is behind them, but they are always in position. It's strange that the other gold-tier guilds don't interfere at all. In any case, he has a bad feeling from these people. Their actions are rather suspicious. The guy asked if that was why he decided it was time to overthrow the Great Demon Guild. The man replied that, of course, he had no choice since he had such an opportunity. He knows that this conversation must remain secret, right? He must remain silent, no matter what happens. By the way, in case the guild falls during the raid, he will have to pay for all the damage because of the attention of the Great Demon Guild. They don't have the ability to support them in this area. The guy replied that everything is fine, it will do without failures. The former Anderson manager asked if the exclusive right was the plan he had been hatching for so long. This is a top A-rank raid. There aren't many experts who are capable of participating in it. The guy said he knew. The guildmaster continued that he had an ace up his sleeve. This raid would definitely be a success. A DS revelation has descended upon you. By accepting the consequences, you accept the fate of disobeying the dictates of fate. Choi Han-suk said on the phone that he was the leader of Ace's regular raid team, and then was surprised that Kang Hyun-jun himself contacted him first.